is this? Yeah, I'm so good, man.
That looks good. I see the staircase a bit, and there's like lots of bushes, and I think it really looks like Levis Lair to me.
This is Lavish Lair.
This is Levis Lair where we landed last season.
Lavish Lair here.
Yes, I knew it.
Easy one over there. Oh, that's a really hard one. I have like no idea what is this.
Don't know where it is.
I have literally no clue.
I will choose Restored Reels.
I think I know this island. It's like a little castle on the island, like in the water.
It's on the island, like the island north of the map. Closer's Castle. Oh.
I know exactly where this one is.
It's like the south of Reckless building and south of the Forecast Tower spawn.
But I don't know how it's called.
I don't know what this is called.
Oh, I know this one. This is Dump Mountain. Yes, I knew it. Dump Mountain. I knew it. Like, it definitely looks like the New Zealand because of the hills in the back, but I have no clue where it is.
I think it's a building on like the full bottom right of the map.
The house, like down lift from the Brawlers, I think, no?
I've never seen this house. Cliffside Lodge. I couldn't have guessed that, I can't lie.
I see this guy on the right, like this statue, and that's giving it away.
It's 100% Restored Reels.
There's just no way it isn't.
I think it's Restored Reels.
That's definitely 100% Restored Reels, yeah. Yeah, that was one. That's an easy one right there.
Yes, sir. That looks good.
Recognize the type of the house.
I've landed here like quite a few times.
Definitely looks like the building in Fencing Fields. Fencing Fields?
I think this is in fencing.
Yeah, I'm so good, man.
There's just nothing. I see a chest and nothing else.
What is this?
I guess I give up because I don't know.
Oh, yes. Reckless Railways.
But this is my hometown. This is Reckless Railways.
It's really lucky because I landed as a chest up there. Oh.
I literally have zero clue what this is.
Snooty steps.
Classic Courts.
I think it's something related with like Greece gods.
I think this is in Olympus, no?
Oh my god, I should have known that.
I see the purple trees, but I'm guessing this is not a main POI.
This it's part of Mill.
It's Mill, and it's close, I guess, to Greengate.
I think it's like next to the pier. No, I didn't think that. I meant something completely different.
I have no clue. I'm gonna have to pass on this one.
It's definitely like in the Dashwater. It looks similar for me, but I don't know exactly where it is. I am going with the Underworld here. Yes! Wow, that was a hard one, man. Oh.
I think I might be one of the worst.
I'm pretty happy with my score.
no shot, cause I'm always in range.
and welcome to FNCS. It's time for the semi-finals of Major 2, and I feel like it's been such a long wait for this moment. The qualifiers were so exciting, and the competition is just heating up. And to talk us through it, we have, of course, Levin 2K and Mini Minor. Let's see what they're wearing. Have they changed since I saw them earlier today? No, they haven't. They are basically a boy band from before when most of our audience were born. They're like the Backstreet Boys of the FNCS scene. Levin, talk me through the look.
Yeah, man, it's just, you know, you don't really need to know. You're not really invited to the club, Frankie, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, you clearly didn't get the memo.
I'm too old to get the memo, I think, because I remember it the first time round. Mini Minor, this is kind of a classic look for you, to be fair.
It's a classic look. I mean, me and Levin, we're a duo now, right? We're competing. We're playing a few tournaments together outside, so I feel like we're just on the same wavelength no matter what. We didn't coordinate this. I didn't say to Levin, oh, should we wear a white shirt today? We just kind of do things at the same time. I think I was eating my breakfast at the same time as him this morning. We go to sleep at the same time. We're just on the same wavelength. It's brilliant.
I feel like such a third wheel now, so I think we're going to talk about duos who are actually good enough at this game to compete in this weekend's action. One of the duos that we're definitely expecting to do well, as always, Levin, is Tayson and Benno.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, when you look at the way things are going to play out today, right, it's the win that ultimately matters the most, right? 5 games, the 5 winners qualify straight through to grand finals. When you start looking at the lobby mini and trying to assess what players, what teams have that ability to win games in high-stake moments, I think Venno and Tayson are clearly a no-brainer.
Yeah, 100%. This is a season where we don't necessarily have an outlier team. We haven't got a team that's absolutely dominating everyone else, maybe like on NA, for example, at the moment. It's definitely all to play for, and Venno and Tayson, they have that experience, right? Looking at how well Venno's playing at the moment as well. During the qualifiers, he actually topped the charts in terms of damage dealt and even the damage ratio, which deals with how much damage he's doing versus how much he's taking. So this duo are on fire right now, and in terms of winning a game today, they're one of the teams that are playing height a little bit as well, Levin, and they're playing it very well. With the experience of both players, they have to be on one of our VRs today, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you look at the lobby today as well, right, in terms of a game plan, a game strategy, they're landing at fencing. There's 2 other teams landing at fencing, but those 2 teams are like contesting each other towards the north side, so they'll have potential for early surge and third-party opportunities. I think the overall look for the day looks very, very good for them and plays into their hands. I'd be very surprised if they didn't win a game. Last season, they won a game on day 2 of this format. I think this season will be day 1 instead.
Minimani, you mentioned that Venno and Tayson, they are still brilliant at taking the high ground, but actually they weren't necessarily taking loads of eliminations from the high ground back in the qualifiers. Is that a tactical decision on their part, or do you think it's just the way that fate befell them?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the lobby that they're in, right? I think with the experience of both players, Venno and Tayson, sometimes if you're trying to go for too many eliminations on the height, it can work out against you because there's obviously you're leaving yourself susceptible to getting that height retaken. So it's not easy for them just to find eliminations, win games. They haven't got that necessarily that set game plan that we've seen in previous seasons, but what they have to, or what they have got, they've got that ability just to think on their feet. They know how the game works. They know how the lobby operates. They know how height operates. So this is a duo with just ample experience, and I expect them to do well today.
A duo that also really impressed on the high ground was Frisk and Scrivy in the qualifiers. They came 11th overall on the Series Point leaderboard mini, and they're definitely going to be another duo to watch.
Yeah, they're a duo that I'm particularly excited about as well this season. One of the only teams, again, that are playing height quite consistently. Just throughout their entire game, their whole game plan, even down to the off-spawn situation, they're landing towards sort of the west side of that Grimgate area and that Underworld area. And it seems like they're not necessarily landing on too much, but they have so many players around them to go ahead and dash over to get some Storm Surge tags. And even what I've noticed about this duo when it comes down to the end game, more often than not, they're actually saving those dashes in order to take the high ground. So we can see them so often up on height, doing incredibly well, Levin, and I expect to see them there again today.
Absolutely. When you look at sort of consistent game plans, these guys have probably been the most consistent in that regard of any team in EU, right? They're sort of starting to pop up on a lot of people's radars because their end games just look so clean. And in a format like this, like we mentioned, where winning games is so important, you're always going to look at those players who have a proficiency for height. Again, it's a very weird season in EU. This has to be probably, I think, the first season in the history of me covering EU where there's no clear height team, right? Like I made a tweet about it a couple of days ago. I said, who's the #1 height team? There was like no consistent answers. I think Harris and Skibby probably the closest you'll get to an answer. And for that reason, I think they have a very high chance of winning the game today.
All right then, Levin, who else has got a good chance?
There's a couple, right? I think historically, if you're looking at people who've done well in these types of formats, the likes of Reason and Vidil, big pop-off players, right, that I think clearly have a big chance. I'm sure there's a bunch of other teams I think sort of are in that realm as well.
Yeah, definitely. For me, Malabuka and Mustache landing at Grimgate, we all know how powerful that medallion can be. And when we're talking about winning games, of course, they might not get it every single game in a sort of consistent format. They might not get that coin every single game, but all they need is one game today, right? All they need is that one game where they can pop off spawn, make it to the end game. And we know what Malabuka and Mustache can do when they do get to that position, only bolstered by that dash medallion. I think it's going to be exciting to watch today.
Neither of you mentioned Queasy and Thomas. There's a good reason why, though, Levin.
Yeah, they're not playing in the upper bracket, right? They're starting off their FNCS semi-finals in the lower bracket. You know, qualifiers didn't quite go their way, but, you know, they're in good spirits, and I'm sure we'll see them in one of the 3 days, you know, competing in the upper bracket at some point.
Well, if you'd like to know how they can get into the upper bracket, I've got 2 mates who are going to talk you through it. It's Takata and Jacob PR.
I got you, Frankie. Don't worry. So to make it here today to the semifinals, we had 2 weeks of qualifiers where players were awarded series points based on their placement. If they were top 50 on that series point leaderboard, then they qualified directly to the upper bracket of the semifinals today. And if they placed in the lower 255 duos, then they qualified to the lower bracket of the semifinals. But Jacob, how can players make it to grand finals today?
It's pretty easy, or at least some would say. Throughout today, it's going to be 5 different matches. It's win and you're in to the EU FNCS Grand Finals. And if you don't happen to make that top 5, 6th through 25th will advance to the upper bracket tomorrow. Everyone else will fall down to that lower bracket round 2. And then it's kind of a repeat on the day tomorrow, Saturday, but with a twist. The lower bracket is going to be 1st through 30th, advance to upper bracket round 3. Takata, everybody else will be eliminated from FNCS at that point. And Sunday we rounded out 3 matches for upper, 3 matches for lower. Those top 25 teams from the upper bracket will advance to the grand finals, and lower bracket, the last chance teams will get. Those top 15 teams will round out our 50 duos for the EU FNCS grand finals. So you cannot be too worried. You got to stay confident and things don't go your way today, because it's truly a marathon and not a race.
So much action. Also, as a reminder, these are set lobbies now. It's not like the qualifiers where we had a bunch of lobbies going on at the same time. There's 50 duos playing 5 matches to be played out. So we have a lot of action. But before that, I know Frankie, Levin, and Minnie have got some more stuff. So what you guys got?
Thank you so much, boys. We have got a Bush Bomb bonanza, because earlier this week, the legends of the Fortnite team decided to unvault one of my favorite items in the game. But Minnie, listen, if there are people out there who don't know what a Bush Bomb is, I mean, one, where were you back in Chapter 4? But also, I want you to tell me what it is.
First, I'm surprised that your favorite item in Fortnite is a bush, but we'll gloss over that quickly. A bush bomb, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you're about right. The bush bomb is back, right? We're back in. It's back in the game. We haven't seen it since Chapter 4, as you just mentioned, Frankie. And the way it works, for those that don't necessarily know how it works, of course, it's just a bush in your inventory. It's quite simple. It works like a regular bush inside a battle royale. It's one of the big bushes as well. And a lot of teams are using them to their advantage in lots of different ways. And we want to just talk about how those ways are and what those ways are and which teams are actually using them, particularly when it comes to Surge Towers, Levin. That seems to be the main focus for teams that are actually using these bushes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the EU lobbies this season, one trend and one thing that has been incredibly prominent, big credit to Trulix and Chicha for this one, is massive surge bases. And I don't, you know, pardon my pun here, but rotating through mid-map has been rather grim this season because of it. And it's because teams like Lecky and Clone, just here on our screens, like to base up like these in sort of these central positions, and they have so much line of sight all throughout that area of the map. And so if you're trying to rotate through this area, they're going to start tagging you up, especially if they have DMRs in their inventory.
Yeah, with the DMRs, it's so vital. And I think just the mechanics of how these Surge Towers work, a lot of teams will be trying to get into the center of the map, as central a position as possible, because you can see these are the future zones that Lecky and Clone had in that particular game that we just saw. Look at all of those zones. That's pushing and forcing all of those players that are rotating in closer to them. Now, back to the Bush Bomb, of course. The Bush is going to be able to just bolster that position for them, allow them to sit inside of the bush, get some tags onto other players like we can see. And even with these new sort of Surge base, I think they're sort of called the Trulex base. I think a lot of people would talk about them as, and you can even just like edit your way through and actually look through the cones and look through the ramps, so you don't even have to expose yourself when looking at the players that are rotating through. Even with Lecky and Clone right here, we can see actually them splitting a little bit here as well, Levin, with something we're going to see a little bit of today, just to try and maximize Storm Surge damage. And for those who don't know, the most important thing is just about to try and get as much damage as you can, and this is exactly one of the strategies that we see.
Yeah, absolutely, right? When people often have these bases, it's typically one person that sits up at the base, the other person maybe finds a bush nearby or just sort of lurks around that area, trying to control as much space as possible. But yeah, Trulex, man, I mean, big up to yourself. They've been doing amazing, but these bases, I'm getting tired of them. I'm seeing there's games I've gone back to watch and there's like 7 bases just like mid-map. I'm like, how do you even rotate that? If you're not one of the people in those bases, like how do you even go about rotating? It can be very tough, but it's super effective. And I'm sure we'll see a bunch of them today with a lot of bushes in them as well.
And the other thing is, if you find yourself as the center of very much unwanted attention, the bush bomb can come in handy there too, Minnie.
Yeah, it can. I mean, this is it's an item that, of course, as we mentioned, it can block the line of sight from other teams and other players that are looking at you. This becomes particularly handy when it comes to an endgame situation. We see that Julian Com and his teammate Techie Fishy, they're actually getting sprayed by the entire lobby here. A lot of teams will just sort of build and keep holding out their turbo builds. A really great use of the bush, just to chuck it down. Then you're not going to get cracked. The people aren't going to be able to see where you are inside of your base, and it just allows for that little bit of extra protection level.
Yeah, and then on top of that, right, to see the way they use it now on the offensive, just placing it down, just to make it so that now when they're spraying out of their box, it's harder for people to see them and see where they're coming from.
So it's a good case for box fighting as well, this bush bomb.
I mean,
yeah, you can,
yeah, like I think the main thing is like if you're in, you know, really scary situations, right, you sort of place it down. It's almost like a smoke, right, in terms of being able to just block the vision, right? You have something that allows people to just not be able to see you anymore. And for that reason, yeah, it can be really effective in a lot of dynamic sort of situations.
Do you think anyone would use a Frankie Ward tactic, which would be, look over there, and then I would chuck the bomb completely away from me and be like, look, they're in that bush over there.
I think in your lobbies that would work. I think, you know, at this level, I would imagine not, to be honest, Frank. You can try it. You know, let us know how that goes for you.
To be fair, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if someone had extra bush bombs. They just chuck a bunch of them around so that people rotate through a bit like, ooh, are they in that bush? Are they in that one? But yeah, I don't think that's going to be the key to winning FNCS. Let's just say.
Also, Minnie, can you talk us through this clip from Hydro? Because Hydro has been graciously experimenting with the push bomb and has shown us how not to use it.
Yeah, well, these are pro players, but they're not necessarily always knowing how everything works. Of course, the push bomb hasn't been in Chapter 5 when we had the train. Just a little tip for those out there. You can't chuck it down on the train. So it actually just instantly destroys it. I think it'd be quite strong, it'd be quite OP. So don't expect to see players using the bush on the train. Maybe expect to see them try it, because clearly they're still trying to come up with new strategies. But I like to see that from players. I like to see new strategies trying to be employed, maybe some new ideas coming in. Obviously, it didn't work out there, but it just shows the players are still learning. They're still developing, and that's what Fortnite's all about.
I feel like if you get a VR and you've got a bush bomb still in your inventory, then it should be coded so that they all explode and you're just showered in leaf confetti. But who is going to be showered in a golden ticket today? Because, of course, if you win a victory royale as part of one of these 5 games that we're about to watch, you get a pass straight through to the grand final, and that makes things potentially very interesting, particularly in terms of off-spawn fights and locations opening up, Levin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we reference one of the names we mentioned a bit earlier, Minnie, Malibuca Mustache, they're landing Grim Gate. They are super contested, right? Triple contested, in fact. One of those teams being Ziandi and Turtle, who have been incredible this season as well. If you win that game off spawn at Grim Gate, we know you have a high chance of winning that game. It's so strong. But that means the next game, they don't have to worry about, Malibuca Mustache contesting them. So now Ziandi and Turtle almost have incentive to be like, okay, you guys might have been off of spawn this game. Great, we'll just go back there next game. And when we get a chance to win it out, now we have that win condition. Now the way that even plays even further. Now what happens the next game if Ziandi and Turtle win? Now someone else might go, oh, you know what, Grim Gate's looking a bit open right now. Let me go land there instead. So all of a sudden you have these power dynamics where a big team calling out of the spot just leaves that space open. Someone might try capitalize on that just to qualify to grands.
Yeah, and for that team at Grimgate in particular, getting it done early is going to be so vital today, because you can only guarantee, almost not even full guarantee, but semi-guarantee what's going to be happening in the very first game, right? Teams might think, well, it's not really working out after game number 1. Maybe we switch up. Where a team's going to go, it's going to be Grimgate, right? Especially when it comes down to tomorrow as well, when we're watching the upper bracket tomorrow. It might just be go for it, right? Especially in the last game. So that could be an exciting one to watch today, I'm sure.
I think they're all going to be really exciting games, and I can't wait to get into them. The battle bus is ready, and so are Jacob and Takata, so take it away, boys.
Thank you so much, Frankie. Look, Jacob, I've been hyped for this. Semifinals, we had the 2 weeks of qualifiers, but the time is now. It's that winner-takes-all format. But not just that, Jacob, because you still want to get at least top 25 here in the upper bracket to make sure you have another shot tomorrow if you don't end up winning a match.
Yeah, because you don't want to go down to that lower bracket. It is going to be grueling. It is going to be tough. But so are today's matches. The battle bus is ready. Let's get right into it.
Starting it off here, I'd love to see some of the action that's happening around Grim Gate. I know Levin, Mini were talking about this. Malabuka, triple contested. Zandy Turtle alongside Tripper and Fredoxy, who could be looking for a potential third party. So a lot of the action will be on the west side of the map. There's also, I believe, a triple contestation down at Fencing Fields. So we'll have to see who is going to be able to come out on top here, Jacob.
Yeah, Major 1 champions, newly picked up by Carmine Corp, Malabuka, Mustache. They got to be feeling ecstatic, but you notice a huge changeup. They don't 50-50 that top chest like you typically see. Oh. And Zandy already gets that first knock onto Mustache, leaving Malabuka by himself. But honestly, I'm not too worried. I feel like I've seen this in last Major. Malabuka, historic run, gets
Flashback.
the reboot multiple times. So even though his teammate goes down, it just makes for that much more of an exciting game already.
Look, there's a reason Malabuka has that Axe of Champions right now, farming up with it. What I'm thinking, though, is for Noxy right now, looking at the feed. Okay, Mustache went off right off the bat. Malabuka's wandering around as a solo. Can we find some shots? What is the game plan moving forward here? But there's still... I was going to say there still should be more action at Grim Gate, as I believe there was going to be 3 duos that were landing here, but it looks like one of them might have kind of backed off.
Yeah, it's Fredoxy and Triprim. They don't necessarily go straight in towards Grim Gate. You can kind of see them on the outskirts. They loot up. They try to get as much materials, as much resources as possible, because they know this season, unlike last, you can't really get these medallions right out of the gate. And you see Fredoxy going for a cheeky shot. Misses the first, and you can see his loadout, not indicative of those close-range battles, so that's why you see him trying to disengage outward.
Got a little scared there. It's always the anticipation you feel lining up that sniper rifle shot. It can honestly just change your game if you're able to land a headshot, but there'll be more opportunities. This is the Grim Gate, so we have the River of Styx, which is that green water you're seeing now on the screen that grants you those dashes, just like the medallion does in this area. So very useful in terms of looting efficiently and getting ready for your rotates.
Yeah, and this is kind of how a lot of the contested POIs where the medallions of houses are. You can even see it go down over towards Olympus side of the map to where there's so much going on so early, and because you have to fight a full boss, you can't get it right out of the gate. But Axe Force Clownski, they don't have to worry about a medallion. They were able to get at least 1 elimination already, and they lay their second opponent back down. 1 of 5 games already gone for that team, so that kind of puts a different pressure if you don't necessarily get the win and you look at straight at the leaderboard.
On the corner of the map here, one of the worries for these drops is getting enough damage so you can focus on those rotations if zone does pull far. So having 2 eliminations already so quickly is going to grant a bit of comfortability in terms of making it towards the zone. We even heard Levin talk about it with Mini about the surge bases we've seen, especially with the bush bombs. There's a lot of opportunities to get those tags in the mid game if you're able to base up early. So looking at Pink and Vico here, they were in a little bit of an engagement, but it looks like they've decided against it.
Yeah, their impressive performance, the impressive run coming to this place, first place when it comes to series points on EU, and it was also a first place in week 1 of that last major. So this team is already progressing week by week, and they just really got to put it to the test. They did qualify for the grand finals in a big win, a big clutch by Pink. Just imagine if they could do that again here early, get the rest of the weekend off to scout your opponents. But Bevies, Pablo Wingu, another team that people are looking at to qualify here in the first couple of games, and rightfully so. They've been making some noise, not just this season, but season after season after season here on the region.
I love this duo. Pablo Bevy, we got to be careful. Vortex versus Volko being close by. Bevies might find a huge opportunity here. It's 84. No crack yet. Tried to get a piece on his opponent. Actually is going to be able to do it. The 2 versus 1 now for Pablo and Bevies, giving them that advantage.
Yeah, you can see his teammates just almost nowhere in sight, getting caught by himself. Volko's just a little bit separated. That's where Pablo probably hears the audio, know he's around, and they're just going to go quickly on the chase, even peeking some shots through the window. Bars can't protect it there. Volko looking trapped as Pablo just continue to extend outward, but Bevy's just takes so much damage. He gets knocked. That's what happens when you separate into 2 separate 1v1s. You give someone like Volko a chance to clutch up.
From the 2v1 to the 1 versus 1. The stress is on, the pressure that Pablo might be feeling now. He still has that HP and shield advantage, but the more time he takes, the more time for his opponent to heal up, to lock in, to get focused again. What do you do here, Jacob? Do you continue the 1 versus 1? Do you try and close it out? Or do you just take the card and disengage?
Yeah, it almost looks like Pablo's making that decision already. He's going to try to disengage, see him switching together some of his loot. But Volko with the high ground, he probably sees he has a little bit of advantage, but instead of just chasing down his opponent, he too has to go for that reboot. And even though the dust has settled, you still got to realize that if the zone did pull all over to this side of the map, teams are now beginning to rotate in. So they are on the clock when it comes to getting that reboot back.
Yeah, you can even see in the mini-map at the bottom right, these players do have the River of Sticks, so they can dash towards here very quickly if they hear anything that interests them, just like a reboot could potentially do. As Pablo is going to keep trying to just get that reboot up and up. But Volko is not going to let that one slide as he continues to apply that pressure. He has enough ammunition. He has enough HP and shield to take these peaks. All it takes, though, is that one big shot.
Yeah, and you're going to see that Pablo's just testing him. He's teasing him. I'm going to get the reboot. You have to go through all this to stop me. Trying to peek a little bit of a cheeky shot in there. Stretch it through. Volko doesn't fall for that one. And interesting enough, nobody is moving in on the distance, so it almost seems they have all the time in the world, but Volko is turning the tables, trying to go for a bait. Peekaboo shot right through, not going to be able to land. Pablo is just quick on his toes to react in a defensive manner, and it's just a game of cat and mouse. Who's going to take the bait for this reboot?
Reboot 1v1 as now Volko says, my turn. I'm going to get my teammate back in the game, and Pablo now is forced to try and replace a wall here or look for an angle. The left angle is a little too risky. You want to have that right-hand peek. As now Pablo is saying, you know what? Volko's not pushing me. I'll take the reboot. It was a mistake potentially, though. Dropped out the 20 shield. Now the aggression continuing on through. Did he just get it, Jacob?
I think
was Volko able to pick up Vortexers? Vortexers are back in the game now. Once again at 2 versus 1. But look at this play. Instead of just fighting directly, they're going to take their time to go back, loot up, make sure Vortexers has shield, has weapons, and has everything to give them the highest chance of taking the 2 versus 1. But Pablo realizes if he gives them that time, he's not going to be able to come out on top.
Yeah, that was just perfectly played on the other side by Volko. And for those of you guys don't know, once you start the reboot, it doesn't instantly go back down and restart. It keeps the progress, but one fights the next. Misha trying to go ahead and battle back. It seems like they're getting sprayed. They're outside of zone, forced all the way down low into a lower layer in which they wanted. That's Sky. That's Scroll on the other side, and not too many teams close by, but they're going to be the ones that try to gatekeep them out. So the longer this fight takes, it might turn into a no-win scenario.
Got to be careful here. There's also duels already based up at the Reckless Railways, so they can potentially look back here when the rotate comes through, as Sky Scroll realize, okay, I don't think it's worth it anymore. We got a bit of damage. We did some tags. Let's get the zone.
That's going to be kind of the name of the game, because up until this point, they've been going through 10 matches, simultaneous lobbies with everybody else that would make those weekly finals. So it's hard to really gain that consistency, a game plan. But now that they're here in this set final, Surge is going to be so important. In the qualifiers, it wouldn't turn on until zones 5, maybe zone 6. We might see that a bit earlier here today, which means teams might have to scramble to get the Surge that they're looking for. But back on over to Grim Gates, where we began realistically, and it's Turtle and Z-Andy. Even though they don't have that mythic loot just yet, you can see them just trying to stay by this location where they can regenerate those underworld dashes from the river sticks, and they're similar to the zone to where they can rotate right now as soon as they see the pool come in.
89 players currently up, Jacob. You can tell we're in the semifinals now as we switch back over to Vidil and Reason. I could have swore they just got an elimination, but there it is. Picked it up finally. Vidil, though, forced to heal up now. We did see Zandy and his duo partner take out Merstash at the start of the game. I believe they did get the Grim Gate coin as well. So even without those River of Sticks, we'll see if they're able to continue forwards. But for Vidil and Reason here on the edge of zone, after that elimination, I think they're kind of focused on making it in. I mean, 45 duos up, Jacob. This is a stacked lobby.
No, it definitely is. So now you got to start thinking when that surge does turn on, how below, how above that threshold are you? Are you out of zone? Are you in zone? So it is going to get real tricky once it does turn on. But you see the water bending ability from distance. Ping just trying to land as many shots as possible. No connection, but this is going to be the best shot he got due to the low damage drop-off rate, how accurate it actually is with those projectiles. And that's where you're going to see a lot of teams begin to utilize those pretty early on in these games.
You can see the Storm Surge thresholds as a reminder to see when it will appear, depending on how many players are remaining. I love the water bending mythic because you have so much range and unlimited ammunition. You can just keep applying pressure and kind of like poking at your opponents there. Just take a look at a replay here from Vico, though, in the zone. Oof, nasty box. Able to pick up an Elim. Is it the same duo that they were fighting off spawn?
Yeah, that's sometimes what you happen when you know you can test a drop. You try to make that quick rotation, but your loop path can be very similar to those players contesting. So a lot of times you will kind of rotate parallel, mirror your opponent, which for some could be a blessing, others can be a curse, as Pink Vico. This is what's surprising me right now with how well and how consistent. You can see they don't really have a lot of HP between the two. Not a lot of heals. The double DMRs coming out of Pink. So you can see up until this point, they have had a rough road just to make it here. And with 45 teams still left alive, it is a tall task to ask to stay alive until those placement points start to appear.
Only 57% of games are won from the high ground in the qualifiers. But in the qualifiers, it wasn't that winner takes all format like we're seeing here in the semifinals. So I'm curious, Jacob, to see now, are we going to see more heal offs? What are we going to see in terms of strategies to try and secure that golden ticket to the grand finals? It is important to stay consistent and get top 25 on the leaderboard to stay in upper bracket. But what these players really want today is that win, is that victory royale. So we'll see kind of what ends up happening here in the late games. But for now, it's preparation is what these duos need to focus on.
Yeah, and with 87 people still left alive, they got to prepare for that Storm Surge to turn on in the next zone. Unless there's a lot of activity, we go down to 74 people. But at this point in time, 13 individual players need to go down when Storm Surge turns on before it turns off again. So being proactive at this stage of the game is going to be huge in order to get the damage. Or if you're saying go to the Marius, just box fighting to try to get 2 elims. But depending on how healthy those players actually are, it might not have been a ton when it comes to the overall surge. And on the other side, you can kind of see not too much to really take advantage of. They did get that one elimination, but when it comes to the loot, they weren't really able to get much out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Lusha Ping could be looking healthier, but I mean, it's not too bad, especially with the elimination. My concern is you saw how many surge bases there were just kind of almost together, which is going to make rotating for any of the players in the surrounding area a lot more difficult. Various, though. Very now going from Surge Base to Rift Island here. Looks like it's going to be the first duo that's going to be able to take it. Potentially get that flag. Oh.
Just when you think you're at the highest point in the mountain, you have someone like Various Bro, aka Fire Bro, up at the top, just landing those cheeky shots. And that's the blessing of Rift Island. And wouldn't be surprised to see if too many teams begin to zip line, try to rift their way up here. Not necessarily to contest the flag, but to get the positioning on the side, just like you see Pink and Vico do, because it is inside of the zone, so they can start to gain their position there, look down towards the side, and try to get the surge that they need. But from a team that doesn't really want to contest to one that might feel a little brave, this could be 3 teams total, maybe even 4 on top of Rift Island now.
There's a whole party up here now. More action than I'm used to seeing on the Rift Island, especially that you don't get points anymore from capturing that flag. You get great positioning, though, like we saw earlier on, to get shots onto people, even in surge bases. If they don't have those bush bombs to kind of hide behind, it can be a lot more difficult to take those peaks. You can see even all the players in the surrounding area below the Rift Island. As a reminder, there are rifts that appear that you can box around and use for rotating as the zone continues to close. Cammy and Seti, one of the most consistent duos we've seen here on EU. But for this season, Jacob, I don't know. I'm curious to see how they might perform here in the semifinals. Oof, nice little DMR shot.
kind of felt the same. It's a team that you kind of know them for where they finish, but sometimes getting to that top finish like we know they can get, it is a little bit of a rocky road from slow starts to big finishes. We know they have the experience. See if they can pull it through, but Lazen Sky jump 70 below the damage threshold. This is where it is going to get tough because about 10 people still need to go down. So out healing it, especially with the heals that they have, is absolutely not going to be an option.
Flare Berry for that mobility. All the hard heals are bandages though. Duo does have a med kit, but it looks like right now they just need to get the zone 75 below. Now this is a position you really do not want to be in, especially here in 5th zone. You can see the amount of duos already on the edge, as now they're going to get closer and closer to Lucia here. Force the box fight. They need to end this quickly.
Yeah, already Storm Surge is now doing damage. The longer this one takes, he can only take about 2 ticks, but he goes down to the shot instead. The 2v1, Sky Jump, Lazen have now learned their lesson to get a little bit more active in the early game for Surge. And you can see Lucia and Pings, judging by the loadout, they have that mythic DMR, so you gotta imagine they have the Zeus medallion along with them as well. So being able to survive that fight is huge and has so many different implications for the rest of their end game.
CZB Nathan now though, kind of with that clutter of people on the edge of zone here under the Rift Island. Only 74 above. Not a comfortable position entirely to be in here. So they are kind of looking around, hunting to see where they can find some potential angles here. Dipping their toes in the river of sticks to get those dashes replenished. As now zone will start closing, so this should open up some opportunities to do a bit of damage.
And CZB and Nathan is a team that's been so consistent. At least 17 top 10s, 7 of those were top 5s, even a couple second places. 87 above, it's probably all part of their game plan. Try to go through unnoticed, escape danger, and you can see everybody using those rifts just to make it in towards the zone. They found Zandy, Turtle, and another team that has some height that they want to take advantage of it and take it as their own, but they're not in the zone just yet. So even though they have this position secured, they still have to move forward before they find the safety of the zone.
Great position to look back and get those tags on the duos rotating in through the rifts, but as they were one of the duos, it took one. Everybody had already landed once they got to this position, except for that one duo that's trying to make their way back in. But be careful, the chop comes through, dash is forced. And Zandy now forced to kind of hold off as Turtle replenishes that shield that they lost. Hopefully they have something more than the chug splashes, but I believe they don't, so they will have to use that just to replenish Turtle's shield.
Yeah, throughout this game, it just seems like they've had scraps. Really barely anything the few times that we have seen them. And see if they can pick it up here with Snaz and Dendeef. 187 above the damage threshold. Rotation to go, and you can see that the medallion is down. The Grim Gate medallion is actually down at this point in time. You see a bunch of teams over in that direction trying to scuffle for it, but Pixel is just trying to out-heal. No! He canceled the med kit while 50 below, and just taking so much damage before he has to go forward and gets taken out altogether. Those are the little mistakes that cost you big time, Takada.
It was still difficult, give him the benefit of the doubt. He was a solo, fully healed duo, was just waiting for him to move, so it was kind of a matter of time, but nice DMR shots. You can see how many duos are using the DMR. It's more than in the qualifiers here. As you can see, the lobbies are a lot more stacked, so Surge is just that much more important, and being able to get those tags consistently is key. Camiseti, though, even though they have those tags, still with a little bit of trouble rotating, losing quite a bit of shield from the players taking pop shots. Everybody is extra aware now, trying to use every opportunity possible to do a little bit of damage. Robin Fastroki now not looking too healthy as well, probably due to having to find those tags. Medkit in hand being used. Just one more big pot left in the inventory. But hopefully here they can get a bit of damage as they're only 84 above.
Yeah, and while Seti and Cammy kind of went in towards Snooty to kind of re-farm up, grab as much loot, you can see Fastroki and Robon just on the side of the mountain trying to get Surge if anybody's swimming in. You can see why. They were down below the threshold, got to 22, and now they're kind of on that line trying to figure out where they're going to get just one shot. It's really all that's needed. And Robon just simultaneously moving deeper and deeper in his zone while Fastroki is the one getting the damage. Spots out another team, lands a nice shot on a Gripe. And you can see not necessarily getting aggressive to try to finish off the elimination because he did his job. He was just looking for damage.
It was 18 below. Now 78 above. It's above, Jacob, but it's not a position that's going to make you feel entirely comfortable. You have to be careful with everybody now looking for tags. The danger levels keep increasing. Caution as the zone also pulled further north. So so they have a long ways to rotate after they get out of this position.
Yeah, a max rotation, and you can see all these teams that were rotating towards Snooty Steps. You notice one that is not there anymore. Seti Kami, they made that quick rotation out. Train moving in on the mini-map as well. Might give some a free rotation, but others, just like Vanyak and Swizz here, got a far distance to cover, probably even max pull, and they got a team to go through. Drop the shields down, and even though he does have minis, it just means he can't replenish back up to 200 effective shield and HP on this rotation.
You can see everybody now on the minimap at the bottom right starting to already rotate. They were going for the tags, but instantly decided it's too risky. Even a train is pulling through half the players. As a 108, huge shot from Vanyak, putting them above the threshold now, allowing them to get a bit more time to keep on rotating through.
And he knows there's only one other exit there. Jake's there, kind of boxed up, along with Twy. Really no movement there as Vanyak and Swizzy just trying to make their way forward, but he gets jumped on into the box. That's Twy who instantly gets taken down. Jakey's going to be left by himself, but now it's a 2v1 situation, and for Vanyak and Swizzy, that was almost best case scenario. Didn't give them all the loot in the world that they needed, but it gave them something because look how far they're able to continue moving forward.
Swizzy hitting some massive shots, saved Vanyak there. As now they're so close, but the players already boxed in are looking back, taking those shots. You have to be careful. Vanyak as well now forced to pop some minis, low on HP. Flowberry used for that momentum boost. But you can see for Doxy and Trip right there on the edge. All it's going to take is one edit and some shots, quickly building up those triple metal boxes. And it looks like they've made it in, but Vanyak is split up. Is he going to be able to make it back to Swizzy? That's what I'm wondering.
Tino, Noah, Marius goes down, and you can see why they fought that fight down on Surge. Something I wouldn't have expected Sangil and Marius to be, and especially with how aggressive they can be at the drop of a dime. But sometimes it's game one. You learn your mistakes as the day progresses, but with 19 teams still left alive, we got a golden ticket to the grand final still to give out for one team in this game. Tripping and Ferdoxy. You can kind of see they're making sure that they have that elevation. In these end games, Takata, you don't want to be the team ultimate low ground too early.
I feel like so many duos now are low on loot, low on heals, shields. They've gotten those eliminations like Veno here, but they've lost their duo partner. Tayson is down, forced to clutch it up as solos, forced to look and hunt for those opportunities. Nice shots coming through, but I don't think damage is the problem right now for Veno. It's trying to figure out how he can replenish some of those materials, how he can last longer in this late game.
Yeah, I'll say luckily for him, he did have that Flowberry Fizz. Two different ones to be exact. You can see him staying away from that ultimate low ground. Mappy on the other side. Veno sees it as a green light, but he takes a big shot. Bites off just a little bit more than he could chew on that last one, but gets coned off by the players above. But Veno just quick to react at almost every turn, and luckily he has two of those Flowberry Fizz, so gathering that shield isn't going to be too much of a worry, but you can see he's going to stagger it, wait for the zone to start to move before he finishes off the rest of his Flowberry Fizz and starts his next rotation.
He's going to have to hunt here for a quick get in. An impact to replenish what he needs. Right now up above, though. Looks like it's Vidil and Resin on the high ground. Will they be able to maintain it as Zone has pulled back? This is great news for the duo. They will be able to conserve a lot of materials here. As you can see them getting ready to pop that Flowberry. Kami Seti, though, choosing to play completely low ground here. And I honestly think this could work out if the focus doesn't go to them. They have to time this perfectly, though.
Yeah, they do. You can see they're just one of the only teams down there in front ahead of zone. For now, it's going to be easy, but as more and more notice that it's almost open territory, they're going to move in that direction. But Cam, you said, have different things in mind. They don't want to be toward that ultimate low ground. They're trying to catch teams off guard, and there goes Swizzy on the receiving end of the water bending ability. So much damage being ripped off in the blink of an eye, but luckily for him, he can take these few seconds. He can stagger, use the Flowberry Fizz before he makes this next rotation over.
Swizzy looking incredibly healthy in terms of loot and everything, honestly. On the contrary, though, Veno still now 0 builds. Flowberry being popped to replenish that shield, but he needs to find an elimination. Was playing backside to hunt for anything possible. Needs to connect the big shot, though. Mappy right below him. Players rotating above. It's 41. It's a crack. Unable to get close enough, though, as now All it's going to take, Jacob, is one big shot, but he's unable to connect.
So many players, Veno, just did damage, taking their shields down, just weren't able to finish it off. But high ground has been contested. Cammy, Seti, they're able to get a knock onto Vidil, forcing Reason down, forcing him back. High ground has been overtaken. And in game one, the Invitational champions, the runners-up for the Global Championship, have found themselves on the high ground.
This is huge. Conserving loot, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They know their opponents are low on mats, or low on heals, or low on loot because of how strong of surge we had previously. And now all they have to do is close it out from above. They have the med kits for heal off. They have both players up. They have everything they need except for that golden ticket. All it takes is the VR for Doxy, though. Might not let that happen. Medallion acquired. Dashes in front of zone. 2 eliminations to his name, and he's still going strong.
Almost the saving grace, picking up that medallion, but it only can last so long. Mappy instantly takes him out. Medallion changes hand yet again, but from duo to duo, Chicho goes down. Trulax under pressure. He falls all the same. Noah and Chino are just putting up a masterclass here with 6 eliminations in the end game.
Both with full HP and shield. They could close this out as well, taking out Moppy. Now it looks like it's a 2 versus 2. It's height versus low. Noah and his duo down below. Cammy Seti up above. It's going to end in a brawl.
And a huge amount of pressure coming down from above. Seti with the Warforged, the water bang ability, which will never run out of ammo. The interesting thing is neither one of these teams have a ton of heals, so this won't go down to a long heal off. As long as Cammy stays alive, he could seal the deal in the bag, but he's passing it over. They want to go for the fight.
I believe Cammy only has 11 builds to work with. I don't think they have enough to play the heal off. They just don't have enough builds, but this Ridge might be their savior. This might just end at a 2 versus 2. Will they drop from above? Will they keep taking pop shots? The action is going to be coming soon.
This is really going to go down to the wire until one team gets sprayed out. We're moving away from the mountain. A lot of the builds being expended. Down goes Cammy. Down goes Seti. Now it's going to come down to this with no real builds left. First shot's going to be fired. Seti goes down, but Cammy clutches up big to take the game and advance to the EU Grand Finals.
Cammy clutching it up in the last moments, dropped from above, but that's no issue for the Invitational champions, making sure to secure that first golden ticket and saying, you know who we are. Veterans of Fortnite competitive, do not forget our name. Do not count us out. They're our first duo that has qualified directly to the grand finals.
This is their 3rd year, Takada. They're going on their 3rd year of being superstars, being one of the teams to beat in the region. Please count me how many teams, how many players have had such dominance, and it's Cammy. Yet again, multiple eliminations with that water bending ability. And when things finally came down, Seti with a huge shot, but it was Cammy with the mythic Gatekeeper shotgun, tearing up the playing field and taking a huge game 1 for him and his duo.
You could tell they kind of wanted to play that heal off. I mean, they had the med kits, they had what they needed, but they were just missing the materials, and they almost kind of got caught off guard there in those last moments, both getting dropped down, had to take out the shotguns midair and hope they connected the shots, but that's exactly what they were able to do.
Yeah, but we know that they have advanced to the grand finals, but after game 1, I'm going to throw it over to Frankie, Mini, and Levin to let us know what the leaderboard looks like.
Thank you very much, guys. I can't wait to see that leaderboard. And I'm so excited for Cammy and Seti. They've already booked their spot in the grand finals, which means we won't see them in the lobby over the next few days. I'm kind of disappointed about this because normally there's a bit of a, well, will they, won't they situation with Cammy and Seti. But it's been spoiled, Levin. They will, and they have.
I'm kind of fuming, but for maybe some selfish reasons. I don't know if you remember, Frankie, but last season when we did this same format, right? I predicted Cammy and Seti were going to win a game during semis, and they just didn't. And it was really frustrating me because they got really close a bunch of times, and I was like, can they do it? Can they just please do it? And they never ended up winning a game. They did still qualify to grands. But here they just think, yeah, game 1, let's just, take high, win the first game easily. Who cares about what Levin says? Like, I mean, congratulations. Well done. They played incredibly well. A really good height take here, Mini, against a Vidil and Reason who looked poised to just win that game. Like, it just looked like the perfect setup for them. But Cammy and Seti with that water bending mythic, putting it to great use.
Yeah, really nice stuff from this team. Throughout the entire match, you just saw just absolute perfection. I mean, the casters talked about the water bending ability having such a big impact. We talked about it earlier on in the season as well. It seems like ages ago, but this weapon, this item, I suppose, this ability is still very, very powerful. Even towards like that dead side of that 8th to 9th zone, we saw them on that side, saving so many materials, just poised to take that high ground at the front side as well, away from Reason and Vidil. It was a really, really nicely played game. And even towards the end here, it was actually that mythic shotgun that Cammy picked up off of Reason, I think there, that actually ended up winning them the match there. I think if he didn't have that, it might have been a different story. So it just shows that this team, they have every little detail nailed down to a T. And I'm excited to see them in grand finals, although we won't see them in the future. They can have a nice cup of tea or something this weekend and enjoy the nice weather, I'm sure.
Well, luckily, Minnie, you've only got a week to wait before you get to see them in those grand finals. But you know what? It was a fantastic low ground performance as well from Fredoxy and Trippin11.
Yeah, no, it was. And I think all throughout that game, right, we saw them being a threat. I think when you look at the Osborne situation with them, right, where they were landing outside of Grim Gate, pushing in, you always knew, like, that's going to be a problem. And when we saw them sort of towards the end here, Jiminy, I think I said to you at one point, I was like, yeah, classic Fredoxy pop-off about to happen, right? Like, he is just so on point this season. And, you know, those moments do seem to happen quite often for them. This game, both of them still together and, yeah, putting in work here. I think the big thing for these guys is that if one of these games they can successfully push into Grimgate and get the medallion, get the shotgun, there's gonna be a big pop-off game for them where they're back in the end game and potentially winning the whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned it there as well. Just being together as a duo is going to be so vital for this team. Fredoxy, yes, solo clutching. We've seen it earlier on this season as well. They weren't too happy with their performances earlier on in the season. They said, right, okay, this is good. You know, we had a good performance. Fredoxy had a really nice solo clutch, but we want to do more. We want to do better. And I think for this team, it's all about trying to make that end game as a duo. We saw it right there. I think Trippin went down in the storm. They just need to fix a few little things. And as you mentioned, if they can get that Grimgate medallion, it's definitely going to work in their favor because they should be able to take height and win the game. Although we didn't see too much of that game.
Minnie, do you think it's going to take them being uncontested at Grimgate, other duos getting their golden ticket and clearing out for them to also do the same?
I don't think Grimgate will ever be uncontested for anyone, especially when it comes to the third party, because they're not even landing at Grimgate, right? They're landing it outside, and they're trying to third party in whoever's going there. So, no, I think if Grimgate gets uncontested, then I'll have to pinch myself because I don't think it's real.
That was a good one. That was a funny.
I only asked that question to make you laugh.
Yeah, it was a joke, right?
Yeah, of course. It was definitely very much joking about that one, you know, light relief while we wait for the leaderboard because that is serious business and it is ready for us right now. So let's take a look at the standings after that one. And remember, the golden ticket has gone to Seti and Cammy. So they have qualified already. And as the day goes on, you'll see positions from 1 to 5 become those qualifiers. Tajino and Noah Ryder, though, a fantastic start for this duo, so close to the end and a whopping 8 eliminations to their name 11.
Yeah, I was really impressed, especially with Noah's sort of performances in this game. Noah and Chino are an interesting duo, right? They're a duo that I think has a very high ceiling in terms of just the potential, what they can offer. They've looked really good. Obviously, landing Snooty's steps is a spot that they've been pretty consistent with. And Minnie, honestly, I could see these guys, you know, qualifying to grand finals with ease, but even winning a game along this weekend, just because, again, if they have these pop-off moments like this, they'll get back into that sort of 2v2 situation at the end a couple times, and, you know, eventually they're going to win one of them.
I seem to remember as well last season, I think it was Noah and Aqua that won the very first game on EU, or one of the early games on EU. So I think Noah does like these sort of formats. I think it was Vanyak actually that won the first game on EU, right? Vanyak and Sen, but they won a game eventually, and I think it just shows that Noah really likes this sort of format. Of course, picking up Chino now this season, so close there at the end to not quite getting the VR, but it was a nice play from those guys. It was a nice, well-played low ground. I think you could see that they were just trying to spray out Cammy and Seti, and I think Cammy and Seti just have all the experience in the world to deal with that situation. But promising signs from this duo, and of course, remember they have to try and stay inside of that top 25 as well to make sure that they're still going to stay in the upper bracket.
Levin, are you disappointed that Vidil and Reason didn't take the golden ticket? Because you did mention them as a duo to watch over the course of this weekend. And actually, you were saying to myself and Minnie that as far back as Zone 3, in fact, that you thought that they could take the victory royale this time around.
Yeah, no, when you know, sort of rewinding that game, Zone 3, they get a refresh and they're looking really good in Storms, Cat Mats, Capsa. They just looked amazing. And I said to Minnie, I was like, yeah, they're just going to win this game. And so when I saw them in height at the end of the game, I'm like, oh yeah, like it was like the most obvious win ever. And they lose height, right? And I think it's a tough one because they clearly weren't too aware in terms of the way we typically see teams lose height this season is a team deep in Storm, banana fizzing, you know, up onto height behind you. In this game, Cammy and Seti were taking it from front side, which is something we've seen again many times over the past year and a half of Fortnite, but just not something that's been very common this season, and I think that probably caught them out a bit. Will Vidil and Reason be on height again in another game this weekend? I'm pretty sure of it, right? So hopefully they can again just be more aware of not losing height in those type of situations.
Can I ask, do you think that it was Cammy's waterbending ability that was their downfall? Because I'm really surprised that we were not seeing more players with this in their arsenal in the late game. And it just feels like there was nothing those guys could do against that onslaught. I mean, it feels foolproof when you're watching it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Mini, because I think the main negative of the waterbending is that it's not great in like close quarter engagements. And there's a lot of players playing in this lobby who probably would use it, but they know they're going to end up in situations where they need it in close quarter engagements. And so then it become a problem. Cammy and Seti have a game plan and a style of play where they're never really taking close box fights unless it's like last ditch situation. And so Cammy probably feels a bit more comfortable taking it because like, well, I'm only ever going to use it in the situation where it's perfect for me.
Yeah, and we saw them using it earlier on in the season as well, right? Before it seems like all these other teams started to use it. I saw in that lobby there, a few teams are trying to carry it, trying to incorporate it into their strategy, but of course didn't quite have that same success. And I think just having that ability to incorporate it into your strategies early on in the season, try and work your game plan around the item can really have great benefits. And we're seeing it right there because the item's fantastic, but if you have to use it in the right way, right? If you use it in the wrong way, it's really going to be a detriment to you. And I think that's where some of our teams maybe fell down a little bit there. But now we have an uncontested drop spot that teams might be able to take advantage of as well.
We should also talk about Tayson and Benno as well. Benno found himself sadly as a solo. I think it was around zone 9 that this duo were eliminated from the lobby. Mini Minor is just par for the course. They're just feeling things out.
I think so. I think it's difficult for that team because, of course, they are slightly, you know, they're somewhat contested or spawn. They're not directly contested or spawn, but they want to try and get the job done. I know this is a team that really want to try and get that win, right? And Venno, of all the people you want solo clutching, it would be him. And it was kind of a reminiscent of what we saw last season. Maybe a little bit of a lack of chemistry when it comes down to the end game. Maybe a little bit of a mistake in the decision making. But I think this is a duo that we still have a lot to see more from. And I think when it comes to their off spawn situation, they need to make it. They need to make the most of it when they make it out of that drop spot because they can't get through consistency today.
One of the off-spawn fights we have got to keep an eye out for would be around Pleasant Piazza. And we saw really a showdown for the ages right at the start of the game. 11-2K, talk us through it.
That was one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a while, but for all the greatest reasons. Because, yeah, I think Jacob mentioned it on the cast, right? Obviously, I think it was this chapter they added it so that like you can continue on like rebooting, like your progress almost saves mid-reboot. And so what we just had is both of these guys just both like dancing around the reboot van, both just taking it in turns like for like 2 seconds at a time, just rebooting until eventually Volko was able to complete the reboot onto Vortexes and then pick him up and get the reboot off. But it was just funny just how they're just both sat here, right? Like just box fighting, trying to claim the wall, trying to find a timing. Cool, I can reboot now for 2 seconds. Like he goes there for a second. Cool, I'm holding it. What? Actually, I'm gonna go for the peak. I'm gonna try to shoot. Like it was just really, really funny. I don't think I've seen anything like this before. I was just sort of there sat with my mouth open like, what on earth is going on?
It's fantastic. I mean, it was like a game of reboot tennis, right? I think this should be like an esport in itself, right? Who can get the reboot off in the end and try and make your way through? Yeah, box fire mechanics had to be used right there, but also the new reboot mechanics. And it was nice to see both teams knowing how to use it and use it to their advantage. I think it was quite close. I like to see if there was like a little thing at the top of the screen or something that showed like how close that Pablo Wingu was to getting that reboot off. I think it was quite close in the end.
I think, Mini,
I like it.
I think you've just cooked up like the best mini game idea ever. Like someone's gonna make a UEFN map out of that right now.
Just hit me up if you do. We'll call it Reboot Royale. How about that? Something along those lines.
There you go.
Guys, I want to get in on this deal and make some sweet coin, but we don't have time because we need to get into game number 2. So let's put that thought on ice and head back over to Kakata and Jacob.
Game 2 is ready to cut, and already you see those opportunities on the day winding down. Now there's only 4 chances left, which might seem like a lot, but let me tell you, if you're not getting those wins, it will go quick.
It definitely goes by quickly, Jacob. You said it yourself. I mean, normally I'm used to 6 matches when we're doing these set lobby formats, but now only 5 matches. And the only way to make grands in these 5 matches for this day 1 of semifinals is literally winning the match. So Cammy and Seti, they're feeling pretty happy. The other 49 duos, they've got work to do. We've got off-spawn engagements, Grim Gate. We've got an open spot on the map now, so there's quite a bit of changes.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see if anybody even moves over to that spot, or is that spot good because Seti and Cammy make it that good? And you mentioned Grim Gates. Nobody from Grim Gates actually ended up coming out on top. In fact, that shotgun, the gatekeeper, was traded over to Seti and Cammy in the end. Will that trend continue? Will Grim Gates come out on top? We'll see, because game 2 starts now.
In the previous match, Murstache ended up going down almost instantly to Ziandi. Will we see something similar here in game 2, Jacob, or are we going to see the tables turn?
That's actually a really, really good point. We know 2 teams that landed directly at Grim Gates, with a third towards the outskirts, ready to third party at a moment's notice. And I even thought I saw a 4th begin to move in little by little. Yes, you do see them there on the right, but it does look like Malibuca Murstache this time around going for the straight up 50-50, and Ziandi looked like he's there to challenge.
Who will be able to come out on top, as Malibuca now is going to be the one that might be able to get this chest, but quickly deciding to go for the pickaxe. Was it the right decision, though, as now Murstache has been knocked down. Malibuca choosing to drop here to get those dashes, recuperate his shield with the barrels. You can see the knowledge of this drop spot all the time and practice that has been put in to maximizing the chances they have of coming out on top here in the early game. The issue is, Jacob, the more time they take, the more opportunity for third parties. Tripper and Ferdoxy are on the outskirts. And with the Murstache being knocked down, and in this situation, picking him up is most likely not going to be the best idea, especially without materials. Malibuca has to quickly come up with a game plan.
Yeah, this is just an unfortunate situation, because even though Murstache is down all the way at the top, they know exactly where he's at. Great play by Turtle, by the way, leaving off of that 50-50, getting the side angle to get the knock while there was a pickaxe battle going on. But finally the drop is going to come in. Malibuca trying to deal as much damage as possible. Ziandi's shields are gone, but he's able to get out alive, disengage, and this is where maybe a little bit of blessing in disguise comes in. The other teams towards the outskirts we were talking about are now moving in this direction, but down goes the Major 1 champs.
Ziandi as well, with just a sliver of HP left. Turtle trying to do what he can to help him out, but Turtle gets knocked down. Ziandi now, all it's going to take is a scratch to take him out. And during this, you can tell that the elimination feed is going to be interesting for the duos in the surrounding area. But as they know now, both duos that were contesting Grim Gate have been taken out. Now the only duo standing is going to quickly go for that medallion.
Yeah, the only thing I'm kind of looking for here is if Tripper and Ferdoxy rotate in that direction, which I'm not too sure of it being a possibility right now. It's all happened too soon, but Ferdoxy actually is moving over in that direction. He's probably at least getting information at the bare minimum, especially with the big bush bomb going down. Don't know exactly where those players are positioned, but you do see in the minimap they are moving closer and closer, even a third player moving in the distance.
The thing is, Ferdoxy Trip, they don't know how healthy the players at Grim Gate are right now. You know, it could have been a very close neck-to-neck battle. So they might want to just take a peek to see kind of, you know, what's going on, how's it looking, scout the area, and I think that's exactly what Trip is going to do here.
Yeah, just by looking at Trip and pick up the shotgun there. He didn't have it in the inventory, couldn't rush over to that side of the map, so he kind of has to let that one go for free. But we talked about the game 1 winners. They're no longer in this lobby, and their spot has actually been taken over by Darm and Raxi. Hopefully they can utilize this newfound freedom and turn that into a game win.
Yeah, it can be risky sometimes when you take a spot from a game winner, because you never know how many duos are actually going to try and do the same thing. But it looks like they rolled a 6 here because there was not a single team contesting them. So they had a lot of free time to loot up, play this split drop correctly. Question is, have they done it before? Do they kind of know the efficient route here? The only player around them is Skyjump, but I don't think he's even looking for any action. Players, though, that are Pablo Bevis, Noah, Tino, Do they want to finish it, though?
Yeah, looks like possibly an early fight for the Forecast Tower. Getting position here early, like we've seen in season past, is going to be important. They're trying to get the launch pad. They're trying to get the high ground that is right next to it. So when it does spawn, they have the advantage. But the longer this fight goes, the team could try to scroll and move in that direction. Noah and Chino. They're one of those teams that made it far. Got second place in that last game. So for now, leaderboards aren't necessarily going to be a worry, but they want that win. They want to end it here in game 2. Relax, watch the rest of the FNCS, and start to build the game plan.
Might even be worth it, you know, to play extra aggressive and just try and get those full-on eliminations, kind of play all or nothing here and have yourself fully set up for the late game without kind of playing the half staggered with not a lot of loot, not a lot of shields left up. But for these two duos, they're both quite healthy. They're not in desperate need of anything necessarily. Dexy, though, Eclipse. No materials. 5 metal builds is all Dexy has here. Flowberry being popped. Is it to escape? Is it to disengage? Or is it to go down and play extra aggressive as they look for an angle here?
Yeah, a little bit of mixture of both. Get the shields up, be able to drop down as soon as they find their opponents. And they're doing it almost layer by layer, trying to be as safe as possible, not really caught off guard. As soon as Dexy spots out one, they use their numbers to that advantage, and immediately you see him change positions, knowing that player is going to run. They are going to be hot on the chase, but they're taking their time. Rightfully so. You don't want to accidentally drop into the wrong box at the wrong time. But the longer they stay stagnant in this position, the harder it's going to be kind of rotate in and find the next spot. Because there's going to be a lot of teams going for bunkers that are a lot further in to where they need to go.
Right. I mean, what could happen is the zone continues to pull north, which would mean there won't be as many duos there, and it shouldn't be as difficult of a rotate. But if the zone does pull south, that's going to be a problem. And was it looking like they're about to drop everything? I'm trying to see how... Yeah, it's just that brick structure, the initial 1x1. Do they actually want to drop it, though?
Just taking his time. It does look like he's planning to drop it, but doesn't want to give out the fact that he is actually going to drop it. Another piece is out of the way. Flowberry Fizz to make sure he doesn't drop along with it, but you see their opponents dropping layer by layer. They've probably seen this one coming from a mile away, and they're trying to prepare for it. But if you look at their builds, they don't have a ton. So if this fight continues to be a prolonged fight, they will run out, and they will have to think outside of the box.
Neither duo has builds, though. So if they end up dropping this whole structure, I mean, both teams will be able to build a couple boxes, but that's basically it. So it doesn't really give too much of an advantage for either duo here, as they continue to just kind of let the clock tick, timer run down. We'll see Resident Vidil, though. They like finishing these engagements a lot quicker. As you can see, Lucia, though, connecting 2 massive shots. 7 HP is all that Resin's left with. Got to be careful now.
It's kind of like the double edge of the Gatekeeper. 3 quick shots can down your opponent very, very quick. You miss a couple of those shots, though, you're going to be stuck on a reload, really without able to defend yourself. But luckily, his teammate was there. They quickly made the numbers matter. CZB Nathan end up in another fight, but Misha, with just a very little bit of HP, have turned the tides and the table, taking down CZB. Now it's going to be him and Nathan, and a full-on 1v1 with not too many teams looking in this direction.
I'd want to be Nathan in this 1v1, though, looking at his HP and shield. Misha, it's going to be difficult. I believe he's just trying to run away here, or maybe even hide, unless he has medkits and shields to recuperate what he's lost. But Nathan should be able to get basically a free reboot here. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Misha is going to be able to recuperate shields with that Flowberry. He had medkits as well, so
part 2.
He's not going to let Nathan reboot no more. Is this a part 2? Reboot Royale, as Minnie said. I don't think so, though. Misha wants to get out of there.
Yeah, I can't say I wasn't hoping for it, but he probably felt he was just a little too late on the chase to get on over to that side, thinking the reboot was going to get on, so he thinks his better chances simply just trying to disengage out of this fight. And back into another one that we saw very, very early on, the fight for the Forecast Tower, instantly won by Vortexers and Voco, something that they have been doing almost all season long, making that Forecast Tower a huge part of their game plan.
I mean, being able to see the upcoming zones give you quite the advantage, so you can see why they won it so badly. Swizzy Vanyak, though, they are in their own little engagement here, but in the meantime, Players taking shots from the surrounding area. They are going to make use of that water-bending mythic, though, to apply as much pressure as possible without using up ammunition. As you have to be careful, though, as Vaniac was almost in danger of being dropped there.
Just needs to be careful, though, because as good as it is distance, putting pressure from above, that water bending ability isn't necessarily the best when it comes to box fighting just like this. Vaniac doing a good job of keeping his distance, playing to his loadout. Not really biting off more than he could chew, but Voltiax and Psycho Cool are just waiting nearby. They're probably waiting for some sort of a knock. They're waiting to hear the shields crack, and that's going to be their green light to third party this with ease.
Do they know? That's my question. The two players box fighting here, two duos. But there's just another team crouched outside their box, kind of waiting for an invitation, saying, you know, the door's open yet. Is it time? Are we invited? I don't think you are, but you might be able to still join the party here as Vaniac continues to just use their opponent's materials. I mean, that's the kind of annoying part of being on the opposite end of that water-bending mythic, is they can just constantly take shots at your builds, and you can't really do much about it other than moving around, unless you want to play aggressive. But I don't think anything too risky here, full-on engagement-wise, is going to end up concluding. For now, I believe the players are just going to keep looking for their tags.
I would be careful. If I was Psycho and Voltiax going up against Vaniac and Swizzy, they finished 5th on the series point leaderboards. They had 8 top 10 games, 5 of those being inside of the top 5, and they are the only team in the top 7 that has a 15 or more elimination game. They know how to get active when the moment calls for it, and it doesn't matter who they're going up against from one opponent to the next. They're ready for a challenge at all turns. You see Swizzy, Vaniac slowly but surely playing for that piece control, not wanting to give up any position or any one of those covers for free.
You can see they were marking up a drop, trying to see if they could catch a player off guard while he was healing. Unable to do so, but haven't lost HP either, so far it's still pretty relaxed for these two duos. Veno, though, lost Tayson in the last match, but this could be huge if they're able to pick up these 2 elims. Tayson gets knocked, but Veno cleaning it up. Both players eliminated. 3 on the board now. That's huge.
Yeah, that's got to be big for their surge. Huge confidence builder. Tayson already had 1 elimination on the Frizzy earlier on in this game, so it isn't going to be the first fight that they take over. And now they have a chance with all that loot to go from one side to the next. Marius and Sangil, we saw them suffer to Storm Surge in that last game. And now you can see kind of what it's causing them to fight for it even harder here in this game. But Marius opens up the cover, takes a massive shot, forced backwards by Noah Riley. And both of these teams here are just in a tough situation. There's not a lot of HP to regain, so they have to beeline their way to zone before it's too late.
Taking a look at the mini-map, there's not too much danger here, to be fair. It's just focused on the duos that were box fighting each other. Gonna make use of that flow berry. Key for rotations in this current meta. It's a must-have in your loadout. Marius Sangild unable to connect that sniper shot, but being around the area with this river of sticks, it makes rotations a lot easier. You can even go deeper into zone, as we can see here, and just make use of those dashes. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue to make it into zone, but they do want to find hopefully a med kit, some bandages. I didn't see any in their inventory, but
it's a huge risk. It's a huge risk for them without any current heals in the inventory, and then having to rotate back to find more. If they don't find any heals, I expect to see them go down in the feed. But the champions of Grim Gate, you can see them where they're positioned. Really nothing to worry about. So my only question for a team like this is the surge. Because of that early game fight, even though they did win it, there wasn't a lot of shields. There wasn't a lot of HP to go around. So if they haven't gotten a ton of surge, they're going to be worried. But right now, 534 above the damage threshold. 0 worries for them in terms of positioning, loadout, anything at all, unless the zone does pull far.
Like, that's where I'm trying to be. For Kentic and Finn, I mean, Grim Gate Medallion, 3 bush bombs, 600 above, good materials. There's not much more you need to play out this match, and they know that. So they're just focused on surviving here, waiting the zones out, letting everybody else battle, and maybe taking some pop shots here and there from afar, but nothing too risky. I love this Surge base as well by tripping for Doxy on top of a structure in Grim Gate. You can see they can even refarm the brick they used to build this structure. And now they have an incredible amount of vision here of the surrounding area. We'll see where zone closes though, as next one should appear shortly. If they're lucky enough, it will close around them. If not, a rotation will have to be made.
Yeah. One thing I did notice is Fordoxy had the Thunderbolt of Zeus, something I've seen this team do before. They target out bases in the distance to try to get fall damage, to try to get a knock with that Thunderbolt of Zeus. And it's something we've seen at least in Qualifier 2, and him having no AR, no SMG. You got to think he's thinking about it again. Trapped in Skrill, 21 below the damage threshold, on top of Rift Island. A little bit of an isolated fight against Naku, but he's just quickly on the run. Doesn't want to give it up for free, but he has to be careful, Strap, because there's Pink and Vico on the other side, and they're trying to attack from two different angles. Pink Vico not taking the bait just yet. Now Storm Surge dealing some damage, 21 below. He barely needs to hit a shot, but there's no opportunities for Srap just yet.
Gotta be careful as the pressure is on now. All it needs is one quick shot, but scrapped. 4 bananas in the inventory. I don't even know if he's gonna have time to use them though, as Vico now is considering applying more pressure with that huge shot. Skrill Scrap recuperating their HP, but they're still below on Surge. So for how long will they be able to sit there on heal until they have to go right back into the action? But Vico knows this, waiting for them to strike, using that right-hand peek perfectly.
Don't necessarily heal the Storm Surge, hear it while it's active, but those shields being popped is huge. Drake strapped down into the box, taking advantage of the pressure situation he's in. Skrill's there on the other side, can't build, can't separate himself. Couple missed shots with the DMR. Well, you can see why that Gatekeeper just takes a little too long to reload in those tough situations, but peeks through the cover. Pink takes a monster of a shot. The tables can turn in this fight. It's Skrill to just start to get aggressive, but you can see no longer suffering to Surge. It was a sacrifice that was a must with his teammate going down.
On thin ice right now. Gotta be careful not to slip, as Skrill has picked up a bit more confidence now from those shots he connected, building his way back up. I mean, there is a reboot van up here, but with the amount of players in the surrounding area, it's not going to be something that's very viable. Trying to see here if Chicho, yeah, his duo partner is up. I'm not sure where Trulex is. He should be around him, no, but
yeah, just not too far off into the distance. So just trying to cover more distance to try to get Surge instead of the massive tower that they normally build to get an amazing line of sight. They've rotated into this position, boxed up separately, and just tried to individually gather Surge. Trulex is the one that's boxed up near the rift. Chicho closes in on that direction, and they're ready for zone to move in when they have to use that rift. And with that rift and the elevation there, they're going to game from, that's where they're going to try to choose a crucial spot here for the next zone.
You can see the uncongested side was the opposite side of Rift Island, which is the west of the map, which means for Doxy and Trip that were based up on Green Gate should have a pretty free rotate. Haijo and his duo, though, once again, another team that's forced to just find action, find damage. It's their last resort. They need to just get into a box. They need to hit a shot right now, or it's going to be too late.
Ooh, wow.
Shots connected, but they end up getting eliminated. Gripey now, another player that might just be a bit below the Surge threshold. But for the duos that have capitalized on this situation, while all other players are trying to just get in and do damage, they just sit back and take those defensive shots. It's a good way to replenish all those shields, all that loot that they might have needed.
Yeah, and luckily for them, as the zone moves and opens up, that whole top part that is currently covered, they're going to get that space to try to be able to rotate in so they don't have to go to the congested side. They can try to stay on the side of the mountain, but other teams beginning to notice a rotation like this and try to cover as much of the ground as possible. Pink Pico from Rift Island, they're the ones trying to land in front of him, but Hedra just gets cut off, forced to stop momentarily, and a lot of the heals are going to be expended just for them to get in a position to where they're healthy for the next zone, but Hedra doesn't even get a chance to use it. That's Reason of a Deal on the other side. Instantly burst into the box, get the first knock of 2. Kerwa, he's able to stay alive, escape, create some distance, but you lose your teammate.
There's a lot of duos in this match, Jacob, that are looking incredibly strong compared to game 1. I feel like a majority of teams game 1, if not almost all of them, So I guess except for Cammy and Seti, we're incredibly low on loot, shields, everything. They didn't even have mats. But now I see a lot of potential winners in this match. Vidil Resin, Ferdoxy Trip. There's so many stacked teams that are up. And now in 7th zone, getting closer and closer to that late game. Let's see what happened here. Demus, huge little window shot. Side jump.
I watch a lot of Fortnite. I always think I'm impressed and can't be impressed anymore. And you find opportunities like that just to get elims and damage, especially when you don't even need it. Vidander, 8 below. It isn't much. And luckily for him, it's going to turn off, but he was already in the act. Sky and Scroll take him down. It's not going to be a bunch of loot that they're going to be able to get for that one, but it's something to kind of add to the total in which they're able to get so far. They still got a little bit more of a rotation to go, but it's not too much of a worry with most of the playing field towards their west.
The Frizzy and his duo down below just kind of chilling. Meanwhile, Sky and Scroll get their way into zone. Howley only has a waterbending mythic and his shotgun. Flowberry Fizz to help him out a little bit, but 7 builds on to work with. I mean, they need to find some sort of impact here, which is why they're going into zone so late here, trying to kind of find the back end duos that might be a little bit low on HP or shield, but I don't think they even have enough builds to make it up this ridge safely. This is not a position you want to be in.
Yeah, even though they do make it up, they can't really box themselves up. They're forced to recycle. A lot of that Flowberry Fizz currently being used, not enough to really make them healthy. They find one person by himself. That's Nathan. No CZB in sight, but he's able to escape. And as soon as that happens, 33 below the damage threshold. But they find 2 legendary bananas. They find some heals to try to keep themselves alive. Job isn't over just yet. Fast Roki's going to go down, but it comes at a cost. Howley gets knocked himself, leaving Nefrizzy by himself.
This is huge, though. Nefrizzy could even potentially pick up the loot from that initial elimination, but he needs to win this 1v1. Either the player leaves or he comes out on top. It's a 66 shot, but it's not enough. Just 10 more damage is what he needed. Vidil and Reason now looking to see if they can claim height here.
Even Kerwan went down immediately after. Almost a no-win, but at least they were able to get points. No placements just yet, but a huge snipe by Kiro. And then Mafia are going to be able to clean that one up. Huge amount of loot. Another one! Marius gets one as well. A sniping little montage there on that rotation, but it's Reason and Vidil from game 1 to game 2. They once again find themselves in possession of the high ground.
They're hungry for it, Jacob. You can tell. Can they maintain it, though? Look at their loadout. Look at their inventory. The future is looking bright for this duo in this match. Hopefully no shadows. Try and overthrow them, though. Sky Scroll down below. Veno Tayson also. You can tell they're hungry for it by the way they're scouting around. Just 9 seconds left, and first moving will appear. The rotations will come through. A lot more healthy players and duos in this match.
Yeah, you know exactly what he's looking for. We all kind of know what he's looking for. Seeing back height, knows how tall they are. I can see a snipe opportunity at least coming through for Veno for a height take. But as him and Tayson continue to move forward, they're taking the road less traveled, going all the way down below. They're trying to prepare for the future and immediately find an uncontested side that they're going to try to gain elevation, get up towards that bridge, and worry about the next zone after that.
Finn here, trying to see what he can do. 2 legendary bananas in the loadout. They do have that Grimgate medallion, so unlimited dashes to rotate through. Not too many materials, but more than enough to make something happen. They were almost 600 above before. It's dropped down now just to 39. Forced to kind of take shots during this rotate. They've made it in, but they're going to need a refresh.
Yeah, the medallion is only kind of half of the battle. As they continue to move forward, they got the job done in terms of getting to the front side of the zone. Still got more traveling to do, and I was about to say they got to pass that medallion because they only have 1 dash between the 2 of them, but rightly played. But if you look at the high ground, it's been overtaken by yet another team, Trash and Zohan.
What happened? What went wrong here for Vidil and Resin is now Zohan from above continuing to land shots. They just need to maintain this throughout the match. I'm trying to see, though, do they have those heals? Do they have med kits? If it's something they want to play out. We started off game 1 without a heal off, even though it is That qualifier through the Victory Royale is what gets you to Grand Finals, but Reason and Vidil now looks like they might be hungry for height once again, but quickly enough they drop down and continue that rotate forwards. They just want to stay up here.
Yeah, quick thinking to move ahead of the game. Even though they waterfalled all the way down low towards the low ground, it's to grab a spot in the front side of zone. Tayson and Veno, they're still hunting, not quickly moving to the front side. They're just trying to let these opportunities present themselves before they make their way across. And once again, another team bypassing all the chaos to get to the front side of zone. But there's another team trying to break their way in. Veno with a quick shot. He gets damaged up just a little bit, but backtracks, reunites with Tayson to safety.
At ultimate low, this has its positives and negatives. A lot of players are going to be dropping down here, so there's going to be a lot of action, but also the potential for a duo to just fall right into your box. You can see how many duos there are in the surrounding area here, as they will pop that flow barrier to continue going forwards. Marius, Sandguild, though, a few layers up, looking healthy.
Just trying to buy their time. You see the coin being passed around. I think it's Pink and Vico that might have control of that one, but Marius on the chase, no builds. He loses his teammate. It's almost all or nothing for him in this scenario, but with Zone pushing so many other teams in, his opportunity to strike. Shot gonna land on Veno. Not really able to do anything with it, with Zone now pushing him in. The splashes are gonna be expended, and with no builds, he finally gets taken down, but there's so much chaos going down all around. Vico trying to use that medallion to his advantage, finds another elimination. Him and Pink with the opportune time trying to take over this game.
Call security. Vico's looking unstoppable as Valpy now is looking to overthrow Hype, but without shields, without materials, it's not going to be possible. Vidil, Reason now back on top, looking to hold their ground.
If at first you don't succeed, you try again. From game 1 to game 2, they're hoping they made the proper adjustments, but down low with the medallion that we've seen win so many games in FNCS, no matter the region. First shot's there. Ferdoxy gets knocked. It's a 4-team endgame here with Pink and Vico with the ultimate low ground and full control.
With that coin, this is danger.
No
for
builds.
Reason and Vidil up above. So many healthy duos down below as Vico, once again, are you kidding me? 7 eliminations. Chicho goes down, still going strong, pushing up layers. They need to find a way how to close it out.
That might have been the Underworld medallion. Siphon could be a possibility for Vico. Trippin at the bottom, finds the toe tag on the Pink, and it's now 2 solos on the low ground. One team poised to steal this game away on the high ground, but Trippin with 10 HP, he's fighting for every inch in this end game, but the final boss, Reason, Vidil, they're dropping down low. They're ending the game without a heal off and advance to the EU FNCS Grand Finals.
What a way to close out the second match. Vico was looking unstoppable down below, but what mattered here was that Victory Royale. And from the start of this late game, even from the previous match, Reason and Vidil were looking for that height. They were looking for that golden ticket. It did not go their way game 1. It didn't even go their way at the start of these moving zones when their high ground was overthrown, but they played by the books. They played calm, collected, regrouped, took height once again in the last moving zones and closed out the match for the Victory Royale. What a great way to make it to Grand Finals.
Yeah, and a huge adaptation from game 1 to game 2. High ground in game 1, contested by Seti and Cammy, tried to hold on to it, was their ultimate demise. Game 2, they gave it up, and for right reasons. They end up on top of the world, advancing to the Grand Finals. And with 2 teams already on that battle bus, ready for this, I'm going to throw it on over to the desk to break down game 2.
Well, I want to almost do a slow clap for you, Levin, because you were saying Vidil and Reason, we slightly ragged on you in the last between game segment, and everything has come true. The 11-2 guarantee has proved itself to be worthy, because that was quite the performance from Vidil and Reason. And this time they found themselves on the high ground with everything they needed to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here and act like I'm some sort of prophetic genius, but I'll spare you that, you know? If you're locked into FNCS, you knew these guys are game winners. They've done it before. They did it last season under this format. They're known for having these sort of big game wins, and so it was no surprise to me that they were going to come through and do that at some point. I didn't think it happened as soon as I said last game, but, you know, nevertheless, you know, they'll take their win and they can go and enjoy their weekends now and get ready for Grand Finals.
It's nice to see them actually sort of taking that height and really making it their identity. We talked about at the beginning of the show that we don't really have a team on EU that's really been dominating height, but that's 2 games out of 2 right now that we see them take that high ground. Hopefully they'll be able to continue that into the grand finals. I think the difference here, the key difference for them was they weren't too stubborn with it in this game, right? They didn't just let another team take it from front side. They learned from their mistakes like we saw from Cammy and Seti last time, and they actually dropped down. They actually had a second go at it then, and of course, ultimately it worked out very, very well for them. Just keeping themselves is make sure that there's not going to be too many people that are going to be able to come up from behind, as you mentioned earlier, 11. That's the main way the teams are going to be taking it. But from this point onwards, when you're on height, when it's a 2v1v1, it's just easy for them.
Hey, I mean, with how sort of Vico and Trippin were both hitting shots beneath them, you know, it could have got risky there when you're looking at their HP and the lack of materials. But yeah, in most situations there, you expect a team like them to get the job done, and thankfully they did.
I want to also say that was fantastic getting to watch that end game again, because it was so brilliant to see all those big name duos making it to that final zone. And one of those duos I always love to see, Mini Miner, is Biko and Pink.
Yeah, nice game from these guys, right? They would have expected a little bit better. They were absolutely popping off there towards the low to mid ground section of the end game. And I think a big key for them was the fact that the island was right next to where these end zones actually played out. So they could just sit on that island for so long just to make sure they could farm all those Storm Surge tanks. We saw it with another team that were up there, they were fighting. So they had every single ingredient that they needed for success here. I think the water had a little bit of a difficulty for them at times, but they stayed together well. They showed us what they can do. And I think this is definitely a duo that we have to look for to perform throughout the rest of the day. I think they will win.
Well, yeah, they were the #1 team coming into this competition, right? Won both weeks of the qualifiers, top of the series point leaderboard. And I think we're seeing a different strategy from them today. In both of the games now we've watched, right? We've seen them up on the island, farming Surge, capping off their mats, and then using that position to get into a better position for the latter end game zones. And it's something that I think it's been, you know, experimental for them, because we've not really seen them do that this season, but it's understandable, right? When you look at their spot, playing for Surge is quite difficult out of that area, right? And so I think, you know, when they know that they are one of the best fighting teams in the lobby, why not play into that? Let's go island every game and play for that and fight teams up there who we know will be battling for Surge, because we're probably going to be better than them. And so far, they've been better than them. So it's good to see them popping off and both in good rhythm. Hopefully we can see them now pick up a win.
Before we talk about the leaderboard, Mini, why are Vico and Pink so dominant on the low ground? Why are they able to control everyone in the zone from that position?
I think it's just their team dynamics, the way that they're playing together. They have a great team behind them as well. It's not just a duo. They have Bloodex that they're working with. They have Pappy as well as a mental coach that's really helping them develop. And I think we've seen that throughout the last year or so that they've been playing together. We've seen a development of their synergy, of their togetherness, of their chemistry. It was something that we highlighted at the very beginning of when they started to play together. That might be something that they need to focus on and work on. And they've worked on it. They're playing so well. And to play those mid to low ground layers, you have to know how each other are going to play. You have to have those fundamental gameplay mechanics down. Otherwise, you are going to struggle. And this duo, they're not struggling at all.
Also, statistically, I think that Pink might be the most prolific editor we have in terms of those late game fights. You can, I guess, Levin, that tells us something about the dynamic between Pink and his fragger. You just go, Vico, go, quite literally, and maybe the Victory Royale Hours plays into your hands.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're one of the best fighting teams, and so when they claim space in some of these low ground layers, you walk into that space, you're not going to last very long. And so, yeah, I think when you look at Pink and Vico, you're looking at two of the better players in the world, not just in the region, and they've been showing that a lot more this season.
Let's take a look at the leaderboard and see where the chips have fallen. Another old person phrase, I need to start phasing those out, and I will by the grand final. We've got 3 days for me to work on it. So Badil and Reason, you can see they have taken the second golden ticket of the day. We won't get to see them, sadly, in the lobby again, but our loss is their gain. They confirm themselves for the grand finals weekend. Nappy and Kiro, I mean, they are eliminating their way into the top 3 there, Mini Miner.
Yeah, really nice to see this duo popping off. I know this is a team that a lot of people have had some question marks about going into this season, right after a solid performance last season from Kiro in particular. It was like, is this really going to work out? How are things going to play out for this duo? And it seems like it's the right choice at the moment, Levin. It seems like they're playing very well and they have this strategy on lock.
I mean, these are two players who have been, you know, famously dropped in the past with some of their other teammates, but yet have come out on top of it better, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Kira and Mappy have been the winners of the sort of snakings that happened in EU, and they've been playing incredibly well since they're, you know, forming together. So excited to see that continue for longer.
And Levin, Swizzy and Vanyak, they're currently outside of the top 10, but do you expect to see that change?
Yeah. I mean, their spot's really awkward. Like Brawlers is a bit of a weird one. It's not a spot that I'm particularly fond of personally. I don't think I've landed there this season, to be honest. But you know, when you're looking at it from a comp perspective, it's a tough spot to play out of, and I think they've struggled with that. They're big game players, pop-off players, right? You know, definitely the potential players that could win. You look last season, Major 1, Vanyak playing with Synod back then, won the first game of this, you know, sort of format. So they definitely have the potential to do it, but it's not going to be easy today.
Yeah.
We should talk about another duo with so much potential on their side. We checked in with them last time round and we got to do it again. Mini Miner, Benno and Tayson, they were making it to the final moments of that game, but unfortunately didn't quite make it into the top 4.
Yeah, nice to see the development here from game number 1. We saw Venno was the one that was actually solo clutching in the last game. Now they're back together in the end game, and this is where they're going to thrive, right? This is where this duo can perform well. In terms of their ability fighting, we got Venno, right? That's all you need as a team, and we've seen them performing incredibly well when they get into these situations in the past. And I think for these guys now, it's just about believing in themselves, ensuring that they can keep that momentum going, because I feel like they're one of those teams that can maybe let it get to them sometimes. They're not performing well, but all it takes is one game, as we keep saying in this format. So of all the teams that are yet to get a win, I think this is one we have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just, while we're talking about Venno, Levin, you know him really well. Do you think he ever does suffer from confidence issues?
I mean, sometimes I think he gets in his own head. I always tell him and big him up. I will always say to him, do you know who you are? You're Venno. Like, you gotta put some respect in your own name. Like, you gotta be that guy because you've been that guy for a long time. And I think he deep down knows that as well. But again, it's about unleashing that in the serve. And I think at times he has this season, right? You know, Mini was listing off some damage stats earlier today that were, you know, showing just how prolific he is and still is as a player. But I want to see both of these guys reach, you know, the heights we've seen of them in the past and really embody who they are as players. And they have done that to a decent degree this season. I think we'll continue to see that.
One of the things that I think is really noticeable between the qualifiers when we have these open unset lobbies to the set lobbies that we've got in the upper bracket this week is the consistency we're seeing. And Mini Miner, I feel like we're starting to see it from Fredoxy and Trip in particular.
Yeah, definitely. I think even in terms of it expanded the whole season, we don't see set lobbies that often at the moment in comp Fortnite. So being able to adapt to when they do come around, not having that necessarily that hard experience of being in the set lobbies is important. And I think Fredoxy and Trib are a team that have the facilities to make big games happen in this format because of the landing spot that they have, the form that both players are in. Even it's nice to see Trippin being the one that's solo clutching here as well. This is a duo that, as we've talked about in the last game as well, they have a nice position on the map. They can get that Grimgate medallion when it works out for them. So, I mean, all the ingredients, if you like, that are combining here, it seems like this is a team that are poised for success.
Does that success come down to the fact as well that they are being quite well behaved around Grimgate? They're kind of leaving it until maybe the second zone before they decide to rotate via the river sticks and find, I guess, the duo that has picked up the dash medallion, Levin?
I don't think they're being behaved. I think they're just getting the stacks if they can and running in once they've seen fights taking place from the feed. You know, it's like you don't want to just rush in there with nothing because then you're going to be another team in Grimgate with nothing, right? So you want to make sure you're in the best spot possible to go in there and fight, because typically you're going to have more mats than those guys if you take your time a bit to farm and then run on in.
But okay, maybe not behave. Maybe I should be using the word discipline, Mini Miner. But yeah, I don't know what good behavior in Fortnite really looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's all boiling over at Grimgate right now. I'm noticing Malibuka and Mustache, they're going down early at the moment, so it's quite difficult to stay disciplined and not just rush in there when you're Trippin and Fredoxy. So I think for those guys right now, they just got to keep playing their own game. I'm sure they get the opportunity.
Yeah, I want to talk more about a new duo that we're seeing at Grim Gate. Ken and Finake. I believe that's how you pronounce Finn's name. Let's just call him Finn for now. But we don't have time because we need to jump into game number 3. So let's head back to Jacob and Takata.
Thanks, Frankie. That's right, Jacob. Look, both games, game 1 and 2, have been won from a duo on high ground. This is different from the qualifiers. We were seeing kind of a mix. It was almost 50-50 of high ground, low ground teams taking those VRs, but now back-to-back high wins.
Yeah, but you got to take a look. That high ground is open. A spot on the map is now opened up. We already seen Seti and Cammy's spot uncontested, stolen away in this next game. So this is game 3. Opportunities are now going out the window. Last game it was 4. Now there's only 3 spots left for today. And then on top of that, the leaderboard. If you look at a team like Malibuca and Mustache, you know they could pop off. You know they could win a game. But if for some reason they don't, they're putting themselves in a hole. Game 3, the battle bus is ready. Takata, let's get into it.
There's been a whole party at the Grim Gate. You were talking about Malibuca, Mustache, one of the most dominant duos in Fortnite history. They can't make it off spawn. They can't even make it past like the first 10 seconds, Jacob. It shows how difficult it can be when you're triple contested at the most popular POI on the map. But we're gonna check out another, I'm gonna call it a 50-50 here because it's a pickaxe battle. Eclipse Dexy, who's coming out on top here. The candy cane chest though gonna get opened up. Weapon in hand now. Kovacs is gonna be the first one going down.
He just completely ran from the chest. He was down on the pickaxe, so he can't necessarily go for it. 3 more swings, he would have been down. Sleeves stand by himself. There's a bunch of players around, but Dexy and Eclipse got to know he's there, and building that gives away a huge audio hint of where he's at. But he does have such a good loadout already, minus the shield. So if this does come down to just a few shots making the difference, I might not be too surprised if he clutches this 1v2.
I mean, it's possible. We've seen a lot of kind of turnarounds throughout the day, from 2v1 advantages to the solo popping off. It's a little bit more difficult when you don't have materials, though, especially right off the spawn, right off the start. He kind of is going to have to catch a player by surprise, but hopefully they're going to be playing quite together. This could be an opportunity here if he can hit a big shot, but he's going to actually get spotted here, which is devastating, to be fair. This is going to make it a lot more difficult.
Yeah, you see him trying to play with the audio. Fake runaway on one side, but now he's basically trapped himself. Dexy and Eclipse saw that one. No edits to get out. They immediately bull rush their way in, get both of those eliminations, and the rest of Rebels roost to themselves.
Taking a look now. Grim Gate, Mustache, Malibuca have made it off the start. They've actually got a loadout this time. I think this is the most weapons they've had throughout the day, so the more loot this duo has, the more materials they have, the more everything they have, it just brings that probability up of them coming out on top. I mean, they are a dominant duo, but they do need at least a bit of loot and materials to put those skills to good use. Ziandy Turtle, though, are going to be the ones above. It's going to kind of be a standoff at Grim Gate. So meanwhile, let's take a look at Giraz and Cherry here by the fencing fields. Only 2 builds, Jacob. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, not the best position to be in, but you've seen a lot more early game fights in certain areas around the map. Teams just trying to bully their way to more loot, get some surge early on. They don't have to worry about it. Makes it easier for them to position themselves. You see Ferdoxy moving in. We talked about the third-party potential. And because of them being alive off spawn, Malibuca or Mustache, they know that that other team that was originally uncontested due to the wins now has to worry about them. And you see another team to the north moving in. You see another team to the northeast watching in this direction. So with everybody staying alive this time around at Grim Gates, this one is going to be busier than a buffet.
Where's our invite, Jacob? There was a whole festival going on here and we didn't even get a ticket for Doxy trip. Now are we gonna see if they can pick up that coin, but with the amount of players in the surrounding area, like you said, Jacob, I don't think anybody is gonna have a lot of time to get this medallion. So as the base kind of gets built, and even a retake for the high ground position above the building there, Ziandy and Turtle almost giving it up. They're not even really fighting for it. Mustache, Malibuca down in the middle. I can't even tell you what's going to happen here. We just kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah, it almost looks like, you know, Z, Andy, Turtle, kind of giving this one up. Don't really want to contest for it. They haven't necessarily been getting it at all. Even in some of those games that they did take out Malibu and Mustache off of spawn, it still wasn't in their inventory. Tripping for Doxy, the opportune moment, moving in towards Grim Gates, securing not only the actual medallion, but the position around it as well. And they're in second place when it comes to players still active on this one, but Revenge, even though they don't get the medallion, Malibu and Mustache take down their counterparts.
Turtle put right back into his shell. As Malibuca's gonna hit him with a quick little dance. Feeling good after a rough first 2 games. Let's see how that actually ended up happening. Turtle was already dropped low. Ziandi, though, from full HP to annihilated. What are they gonna do about the medallion, though?
I don't think there's much they can do, because Fordoxy and Trippin ain't staying around to fight the next guy. They're rotating on over for
they're gone.
where they hope to be next. And this is where I look at a team like this. I just mentioned it. Out of the teams that have not qualified for the finals just yet, they are in second place, down by 12 points to Kiro and Mappy. And with how consistent they've been playing through those 2 games, I wouldn't be surprised to see them walk away with the victory here in Game 3, but they still have to earn it. There's a ton of game left to go.
This is a dangerous place to be in with the zone pulling further away. Nako, though, he's lost his duo partner, but his opponent as well, so it is a 1 versus 1 for these 2 teams. There are players in the surrounding area, but it looks like a disengagement's gonna come through. Does he see that duo on the hill, though? You gotta be careful, as now he's cracked, dropped to 27 HP. Aggression is onto Nako. Huge shot onto his opponent, but unable to close it out.
Yeah, Zangi almost got embarrassed right there. Turned and burned. Shield's gone, but Darky and Teensy were the ones kind of forcing that one. I say Dre and Darky forced him outward. Now Teensy's the one that's trying to survive as a solo. That's not going to take you nowhere. So he's just sitting in the porta potty in zone. And I don't.
Had to take a bathroom
break. Does that team know
but,
he's still in there though, or do they think he looped somewhere around the map?
I think they think he appeared somewhere else. This might be the 5-head move that puts us apart from these top tier EU veteran players, Jacob. That might have just worked. Okay. Dre, Darky, still just kind of chilling. They might be doing it on purpose, pretending they don't know that he's in there right now, just waiting for him to jump out. But to be fair, they're not even looking at the porta potty, sorry, so.
Yeah, rightfully so. That Zangi and his duo that kind of moved in, they're the ones that are taking a lot of the focus from Dre and Darky. Now that the zone's moving in, even if they do know he's there, how long do you wait? Use a lot of the damage from Storm, use a lot of the heals, but for now, it does look like Dre. 4 floppers, 10 bandages. He's at least, at the very minimum, staggering himself for Storm Surge. Sees Elteensy out the side, so he knows that he's still there. He knows he's still alive. It's about, do you go on the chase or do you worry about zone?
Yeah, he saw him pop the banana. It's not really worth it at this point, in my opinion, being far from zone. Teensy, though, he's going to go for a reboot, I assume. I mean, he has a bit of time with the heals, but it's going to be very difficult to make a comeback, especially one that's going to be strong enough to get that Victory Royale. But remember, it's not just for the Victory Royale, as the top 25 duos on the leaderboard after this day 1 of the semifinals will continue onto the upper bracket of day 2. If you don't get to top 25, then you're going to go down to the lower bracket, which is going to make it more difficult to qualify to grand finals.
It really could go down to the last game, because if you look at the threshold right now for 25th place, it's only 32 points. And so it could still be anybody's game. I know there's still 3 more games to go before that one is solidified, but you see Sanguild, Marius, game after game, they're just adapting quicker and quicker each and every time. Game 1, down to Surge. Game 2, on the line. Game 3, eliminations very, very early on. That's what we saw Reason and Vidil do. It worked out. They got the win in Game 2. So you can imagine making the proper adjustments at the right time could yield so many results.
Getting the job done. As now, we're going to continue rotating kind of edge of the zone here, which is solid if you have a lot of damage. If not, it can make it a bit difficult. But to be fair, rotations in general especially recently, are incredibly difficult with the amount of surge bases like the one that Chicho's on right now, because not only can you make a surge base, but if you have those bush bombs, you can even place one up top, and it makes it much more difficult for you to get tagged or shot at from duos in the surrounding area. So if you are rotating through a section of the map that has a lot of people boxed up waiting for you, oh, be careful. Wait, this could be tragic. Malabuka, no more shield.
And you can see what they're fighting for. It's not even necessarily the medallion that Fortnite and Trippin were able to stay away. It's the bunker that has already opened up. Nobody really wants to trap themselves down there. Trippin and Fordoxy, this is big. They have a huge advantage with the medallion, but if they lose this opens up so many doors for Malabuka and Mustache. And there's another team. There's a third team slowly but surely moving in, crouching, waiting for somebody to go down before they make their presence known.
Sniper rifle in hand, one quick scope.
A 14.
Could change the game here. But this is getting more and more risky. An emergency. This isn't a safety bunker anymore. As the risk levels increase, they have to decide if it's worth it to stay and continue this box fight. I mean, it's a good option to get damage. Malabuka already has 2 elims. They were off the start, though. Fordoxy crouching up with the sniper rifle, jumps right into the box, unable to connect the shotgun shot now, though. Malabuka with the upper hand. Fordoxy's cracked, knocked down. 2 versus 1. Mustache is low, though. Gonna take time. Recuperate some shields here. They did get that medallion now. Trip, you've got to pull out something crazy here.
It's going to be hard for him to disengage as well. I talked about the third party. I mentioned a little bit of the fourth party. They're the ones that are going on the chase for that solo, and you can see it in the feed. Trippin goes down to V. He is taken out, sent back to the lobby, and what could have been a big game for them. Stealing away the medallion, stealing away the mythic loot. It all gets tossed away to one fight for Malabuka and Mustache. And now you look at a team like Malabuka and Mustache, the Major 1 champions. They have a chance to really make a statement now that they have all that loot.
I'm not even in the match, Jacob, and I'm feeling scared right now. From the first 2 games, we talked about it. You can go from nothing to everything. All you need is the victory royale, and a duo like Malabuka and Mustache, medallion in hand, bunker loot in hand. The only thing that could go wrong here is if Finn and Kentic manage to maybe catch them off guard and knock down one of them very quickly here as they're going out of the bunker. But they should know there was a lot of duos in the surrounding area and keep caution as they kind of disengage from it. So hopefully they don't run into any issues here, but this is it, Jacob.
This is where they're really going to be tested. And I feel like they are going to be careful when they try to leave this bunker. You know, after playing, you know, scrims, even if these guys play ranked, you know, cash cups, it's almost a threat loom around almost every one of these bunkers that players do move into the distance. And being at Malabuka or Mustache, I just hope they don't forget the fundamentals when trying to leave this bunker.
No way. There's no way that they don't play cautious here. As now, a reminder, you know, top 25 is going to be that cutoff. So for these duos on the edge, it's just one game. We said it, 34 points basically. And Mustache and Malabuka being in 38th spot, all the points they've gotten has been from this match, but they're not looking for that top 25. You know that they want something more. They want to close this game out. But if Finn is able to land a big shot here, if either player is able to catch one off guard, it could lead to the demise. Mustache is actually the player that's lower here. No shield to work with. He needs to get out. They see that crack now. They know they have the upper hand instead of HP and shield. Malabuka cracked as well. He gets knocked. The 2 versus 1 from everything to nothing. Finn securing 1 elim. Can he close it off?
Wow. Even though he doesn't actually get the elim onto Mustache, a huge haymaker on from Malabuka. He goes down. Blurfire from the third party comes in and finishes that one. And they get all the rewards. They get the mythic loot. They get the dash coin. They get everything that they've fought for. But this, I will say, Takada, is the second time. It's the second time they've been able to get the loot. They were unsuccessful the first time around. So hopefully the trend of the day is going to be adjustments and they figure out a way to make it work.
That's crazy. What a tragic way to go down. There is more opportunities for Malabuka and Mustache. 2 more matches today. So we'll see if they can make something happen for Misha. Oh! Good night, Axe Force. That's not a way you like to go down, but it's not easy to hit a shot like that. The table's almost turned, though. We can see that was the replay, so the both players are back up. No eliminations came from that, but a good amount of damage did.
Yeah, and you see they got what they came for. Instead of overstaying their welcome, just on the edge of zone, they're going to try to move their way in. But one of those huge towers that we talked about in the pregame, kind of gatekeeping their way out. It'll be tough for them to rotate in, but as long as it doesn't get over congested on this side, it won't be too much to worry about. Rift Island, something that we see game after game after game, only actually has one team right now. Maybe it is a little bit too early. Nobody rotated in this direction just yet, but that gives Kira Mappy the freedom to farm up, to loot, gate the position that they want before any team touches the island.
Nice tags from the DMR here. 55 damage just from one shot connecting can be huge. What I'm curious to see though, Jacob, we saw Vico pop off last game alongside Pink. You can see them down below here under the Rift Island. Now, they only spent a total of 90 seconds on high ground during the qualifiers, which is one of the lowest of any of the teams competing today. But both matches have been won by duos on the high ground for the first two matches of today. So will they be the first duo to kind of turn the tables and take home a VR from the low ground? Or are they going to say, you know what, we're done. We're going back to height. And we're taking it from there. I want to see the first option. I want to see them continue dominating low and getting a high elim VR, but only time will tell.
Yeah, they started this game 6th place in the overall leaderboard. From teams left in the lobby, only 4th is Bebbies and Pablo, 19 below the damage threshold, which isn't much. Just a couple of cheeky shots, spraying through some of the bushes, spraying through some of the builds is all it's really going to take, but without anybody taking the bait or even really giving them an opportunity. Oh. And it gets fired back. Marius with a huge snipe takes him down, leaving Bebbies by himself. You see him already struggling, panicking, trying to move around. Marius with another couple of shots, bleeding through some of these builds, forcing Bebbies into an inferior situation. Forced to go up. He gets taken down. Sangling and Marius find 2 more eliminations in the mid game.
What a way to go down. Marius full boxing his opponent, but just like that, with the snap of the fingers, he is taken out, knocked to the ground. And I believe Sangild is just going to get out of there. He's going to let Marius get fully finished. This has been a quick turn of events for so many duos in this match, from the headshot snipe to Malabuka Merstash caught off guard to just 2 back-to-back double shotgun shots to take out Marius. I mean, duos are going from everything to nothing literally in seconds.
Okay, seeing how he landed that cheeky from the bush. Immediately kind of rotated and moved on over, even though Marius is down. Sangild's back up. If you look and remember where the zone pulled so far away from where they're positioned, they can try to get the reboot card back up. But it almost looks like this Grimgate medallion is more of a curse than anything. Finn finds himself in another tough spot. His duo is knocked. Flarefire, he was the one that originally got the elimination on the final member of Malabuka Merstash, but it's Finn who's going to be left standing thanks to Velry and Various kind of disrupting this whole fight. A blessing in disguise, because now you can see his teammate is back up and they're ready to go with the loot still in hand.
Nice little snatch. I almost thought it was Finn that secured that elim at the start, but quickly enough, it was the other duo in the surrounding area. So now both teams have freedom to rotate to zone. Using those dashes, they can make it quickly, and being 342 above, they don't even have to focus on looking for too many tags here. You can see Rift Island now. That's no longer in zone. The rifts are being put to good use. The players, there are boxes below. Launchpad from the rift, anything to make it into zone here.
Seeing how annoying that waterbending ability can actually be. Players flying through the sky don't even have the same safety. 143 below. Every time he tries to peek and take a tag, he gets some damage. But there's just so much pressure. Multiple teams now spraying this cover. Hydro and Hootie have to figure out a way to survive, even if it's a sliver of HP. The onslaught, the barrage that was once coming their way has slowed down, giving them a second chance to Let's try to get this HP back on up. But it's now Storm Surge that's doing a brunt of this damage with another team moving on to the distance. Hydro with a big shot. Not really enough to get him over the damage threshold, but he's not backing down from a challenge. Second chance to charm. He's able to get above the damage threshold, but not by much.
And there it is. Not enough time. Storm Surge gets the better. Sky Jump now. Left with 2 bananas. 63 HP. You got to pop one now. As the shots continue coming in from afar, you have to be careful, though. This is not the position you want to be in. You either wait it out or do some damage. Big pot getting popped. One more banana. Flowberry doing anything he can. It's just 40 below. It's not like he needs a lot of damage. But with players continuing to break in, they know he's low. They know he's healing up. Sky Jump gets sent back to the lobby.
Yeah, that's the second time Zangy was able to get an elimination by sneaking up on a player who's distracted, trying to run away. It's opportunities like that that are huge and make a huge impact for the rest of the game. Top 25 right now, Takada, for as much action, as much game as we've seen up until this point. Barely now are teams and players getting any points for their placement.
You can see Hydro, even though they did pick up that elimination, only 52 above. 29 duos, 48 players, 7th zone. We're just in the middle of all the chaos here. Players packed together, up close and personal, seeing if they can take some shots at the players around them. Even a little box fight just to get a bit of damage. Players rotating into. Eyes are on them.
Nobody going down just yet. See a little bit of a replay. Pink and Vico catching out one, just trying to get away and immediately beeline in that direction for loot. You talked about their 90 seconds on low ground. It's probably because they find elimination after elimination like that to make sure they have enough loot on that low ground, so it doesn't matter if they build their way or consistently jump their way to the front side of the zone. They're always prepared for anything to come their way.
For Sky and Scroll, though, great job looking back on zone and applying pressure to those duos that have to rotate. Joke's on me. It's actually Sky and Scroll that has to rotate, though. But they're doing a good job of doing damage here. 12 above. It's going to be a difficult rotate, to be fair. They are the only duo there, basically. But crossing a river is never easy. They'll probably have to go more towards where Marius is and do a longer rotate. They do have some bananas. Hopefully they don't have to use them, though. A Flowberry would be perfect here to give them that mobility boost. But they do want more damage.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a necessity, but 31 above is not a true feeling of comfortability, knowing it changed at the drop of a hat. And you can see them looking all around. Players that are rotating the front of zone, players side that have to find a way to mirror that rotation. While everybody's kind of stuck in between, down below the river, Dexy and Eclipse have find a way to have some sense of the high ground. But 8th zone, we've seen it already today alone, let alone throughout the qualifiers, that sometimes 8th zone might be a little too early because a Flowberry Fizz, a legendary banana backside of zone can overtake you if you don't have that awareness.
I mean, Reason Video made it happen. They got it first zone, lost it, but they were able to get it again. Veno, though, Tayson, be careful. They get their elimination, but drop to 25 HP in the zone, taking lower and lower by the second as pressure down below. Opponent right into the box, takes both players out.
The chain of Hades. He just gets into the box, puts them in the blender, and makes a Veno and Tayson smoothie. Huge eliminations there, taking superstars out of the game. But Trulex and Chicho, from the monuments throughout the game to get them to surge to ultimate low ground on the side of the mountain, they know where this zone is going. There's not too many high elevations, so they're trying to prepare and be one of the first teams to low ground at the front side of the zone.
Got confused for a second. I thought I saw 72 hours in the match using that chain of Hades, but putting it to work as Marius now. Like you said, good job of staying ahead here, but you can see, we talked about Vico and Pink loving the low ground. It's exactly where they're staying. They want to change those high ground VRs that we've seen in the previous matches. They want to take one from low. And as Sky and Scroll now continue to rack up eliminations, they still are lacking a bit of materials here.
Almost a great opportunity there to land a good shot. 343, they only have to worry about getting his own, but Pink goes down. Vico left by himself. Pressure coming in from different directions. And he's simultaneously running out of builds, forced down low into the water, but at least he's in zone. He's able to grab these dashes. That's going to be best case scenario. Now that knowing that he's by himself, he doesn't have to play as a duo. There's going to be a lot of flexibility coming out of Vico here.
Making use of the dashes. You said it yourself. Good job. staying ahead here, conserving materials, recycling previous builds, but you got to be careful. As you keep recycling, there is that potential for a duo to be in there. Eclipse, Dexy have been able to hold on to high ground.
Top 13 situation. Vico trying to utilize those dashes, gets tagged up, trading shots back and forth, but finds some old builds and finds somebody trying to stay alive in the corner. Great opportunity for Vico and a huge refresh. He gets replenished by both loot and materials.
Only 13 builds though. It should be able to get him ahead of zone here with those dashes, but quickly enough, he's gonna need another refresh. It's a full duo close by though. You do not want to be put into this situation, but the turnaround. Vortexer's now left alone as Volko got annihilated. Will he go to pick up his duo partner, or he's just gonna take the loot and leave? Mats have been dropped, playing as a solo, as now Chicho and Trulex continue to get ahead.
And this is their chance to really show what they're made of. The story for them this season has been redemption from Major 1, failing to make that grand finals. And they know how good of a team they can actually be. And they're holding their position. You can see them passing around the materials as well, making sure both players are healthy because they know this one will come down to the wire, especially since it's top 6 with only one solo alive.
A lot of duos on the low mid ground here. It's danger to try and stay up. This is very good for the duo on high ground that I believe is still Dexy, who's up above. Have they held on to it is the question. Yes, they have. Eclipse and Dexy looking incredibly strong. We might continue our trend and see another victory royale from Height.
Yeah, they have the two legendary bananas and Frizzy just under pressure. Howley already taken down. Sky from one to the next. He finally drops. Top 4 situation, but it's Marius. It's Sandguild. They're trying to gatekeep. They're trying to be the final boss in their path. It doesn't matter if they're going directly at him or attacking from below. They will find him either way as another elimination gets cleaned up. Top 3, Takata.
Marius charging up. That's 6. Can he make it 7? Gets knocked down. It's Trulex that gets the elimination, though. Now, just the duo up above. Dexy has dropped. He's trying to clean this out, see if he can hold Trulex off or even connect that huge shot. And it's just 1 second away. One little shot, one tick from zone is all it's going to take for Dexy and Eclipse to take this home. It was a matter of time, and they have done it, Jacob.
That was just a huge moment for them because throughout the course of them holding the high ground, very few teams even looked back. When you have Veno and Tayson back to the lobby, when you have Seti and Cammy already in the finals, Reason and Vidil already in finals, there's nobody left to look up. And since nobody looked up, they looked down and they looked ahead because now they're in the finals.
Looked ahead right to the grand finals. I mean, you said it yourself, the only duo was Tayson and Veno, but unfortunately, while they were going for high ground, Chain of Hades annihilated both of them instantly in the box, which left Eclipse and Dexy with a free high ground, just cleaned it up in those last moments and secured their spot in the grand finals.
And you're seeing exactly why high ground is winning some of these games, because throughout the course, multiple games, Pink and Vico on the low ground looking like they have that victory in their grasp, but they just run into one too many teams. And it was Trulex and Chicho in that last game looking so strong, but they ran into the maker. They got sent back to the lobby, unable to win that game. But with 3 games down, I'm going to throw it back on over to the desk to let us know what the leaderboard is looking like.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations to Eclipse and Dexy for booking their golden ticket to the grand finals next weekend. And what I thought was particularly impressive, Mini Miner, about this duo was that they tried to reclaim, tried to claim, actually, not even reclaim, but claim high ground as early as Zone 8. And often when we see duos doing that, maybe it's a little bit too early, but they actually managed to hold on to it.
Yeah, it can be quite situational. It really depends on who's in the lobby, how the lobby dynamics are working, and they took it really early, as you mentioned, and it seemed like it was going to work out, and it did, of course, right? It was difficult, though, because I thought that they weren't actually going to hold on to it. It was one of those zones that we haven't seen yet today, where it was the end zone were actually over the green water, right? The river Styx. So many people were able to get those dash abilities. So I thought maybe they might have had a team maybe that was saving those and actually were able to claim high, but I think ultimately it actually worked out in their favor because they were the ones that were able to do it. Of course, from then on out, just play as high as you can, keep fizzing yourself, making sure that you're not going to go down to full damage. It's quite simply how Height should be played, Levin, and they played it very well.
I got a big smile on my face because earlier today, Dexy tweeted, "I'm winning game 3." Like, he just said it up front, like way before the day started. And Frankie, you were bigging me up earlier for my ability to predict the future and tell you what's going to happen. this guy's 10 times better than me. He called it way earlier. He said he called it as early as yesterday, that game 3 he's winning. I don't know where that even came from and how it's just actually come through perfectly, but big up to Dexy and Eclipse, man. That's very impressive. The starting off the game at Rebels Roost, winning out the whole thing, and now they're going to be in Grands.
The Dexy guarantee is something we're going to have to look out for in future weeks. Going to have to all drop him a follow on social media. Mini Miner, were you expecting Dexy and Eclipse to take one of those golden tickets this weekend?
No, I think it wouldn't have been on many people's, or they wouldn't have been on many people's list to take home one of the 5 wins today, and particularly even, you know, across the whole weekend. But this is it's a nice team that I think we haven't seen too much from at this level of Fortnite, right? They're definitely emerging players. They've been emerging for a while, where and I think we should start to become a little bit more aware as to how they play. I know Eclipse, for one, was looking for a teammate for a while. I think throughout the whole of last chapter, couldn't quite settle with how he's playing, and now it seems like this duo are really performing well, and they've had a really good start to the chapter so far, and clearly working out well going into the grand final.
I mean, looking at their off-spawn situation, Frankie, contested off-spawn at Rebels Roost by Kovacs and Stan. Rebels Roost isn't the most flashy POI out there, right? It's not a Grim Gate, and then you're contested there on top of that. Like, it was never really going to be smooth sailing for them, but they've made it work, and I mean, yeah, big props to them.
So, Levin, what about another duo that you think could take a golden ticket today? Do you think Volca and Vortexes could be one of those duos? I mean, they've been so entertaining so far to watch.
I'm surprised you ain't asked Mini Miner about those two, but I think we know what his answer would be, you know? If you ask him, he's just saying yes straight away.
Broken record.
A non-biased opinion is absolutely. I mean, you look at their situation, cool, off-spawn you're fighting against Pablo and Bevies, which isn't ideal, but when you do win those games, you get some early surge, and they're playing for that forecast, how a lot of the time, right, again, on this trend of being able to predict the future, they have the ability to see the future zones, right? That gives them that leg up, and you know, we know with their ability, they have the ability to win games, right? They've shown that in previous seasons when playing with each other. So absolutely, these guys could be a team that pick up a win today, and they've had a bit of momentum throughout today.
Yeah, and that's what they'll need. They'll need to feed off of that momentum. They'll need to feed off of that confidence. I know that they're a team that may go for height sometimes. They're not necessarily a height-dominant team, but they have that in their locker as well. And I think, I mean, me and you were playing the other day, Levin. We were saying how good Pleasant Piazza actually is. There's so much there, right? You know, you have the forecast, you have the bunker there, you have the river Styx nearby to recharge some of those dashes. So they're really making the most of that POI right now. Sat in 8th on the leaderboard, you can see on the screen. It's really looking good for them. So all it takes is that one game where they can get that forecast and everything starts to fall together.
Guys, can I just say, you keep making me feel like a third wheel. I'm never invited to these little map exploration matches that you're holding for yourselves, and I think we need to have a conversation about this, but we were going to do this at another time because we need to take a look at the leaderboard and see where we are. And don't forget, positions 1 to 3, they are our Victory Royale winners. So actually, this is more like the top 7 when you look at it. Trulex and Chicho, they are just having a phenomenal day so far. Brilliant eliminations, but also placement points so far. Really, really high, very consistent, Levin.
Yeah, absolutely, right? We've bigged them up all throughout the season just because, again, right, when we're talking about a weird season in EU where there's not been real standout teams, Trulex and Chicho, especially early on in the season, were a duo that looked very consistent. They had a very set in stone game plan, and they've, you know, been on a sort of comeback revenge tour, right? After not qualifying for Grands last season, they've really set out with their intentions this season to show people that, nah, we are still a top team. We still have the abilities to make it to an event like Globals, and we're going to be at the top of leaderboards in every top competition.
I mean, I'm looking at their match history today, 5th, 4th, and 2nd so far. So I think they've almost guaranteed the fact they'll be playing in the upper bracket tomorrow. I think that might give them a little bit of freedom now just to say, right, let's try and go for that height. Let's try and make that play to win a game, because we know they have it in their locker. We saw it even at Globals all the way back then, them on high ground winning games. I think it was the last 2 games of the last day that they actually ended up winning. So they have that in their locker. They have that potential. Wasn't a great season for them, of course, last season, not qualifying through to the grand finals. That was a big story for them. But it does seem to be a trend with this duo and Trulex in particular. Whenever they have a bad season, come back stronger, and hopefully for them, they'll be able to have a really good season, not just make grands.
That's a really good point you've reminded us of, Mini Miner, which is that our duos need to be in the top 25 today. So we're actually looking at 28 and up on the standings right now, because as I already mentioned, 3 of our duos, the top 3, have already made it through to grand finals. They're not going to be playing again this weekend. But the top actual 25 from these standings they will be playing in the upper bracket again tomorrow. Again, having that chance of getting that Victory Royale golden ticket. The others will head down to the lower bracket. And actually, in the lower bracket tomorrow, we're going to lose players. So teams who do not make it, who do not qualify for the day three places, the day three lower bracket lobby will be going home. We go from 4 lobbies to just 1 lobby in the lower bracket on the final day. So I wonder, Mini Miner, if we're going to see duos behave slightly differently in the last 2 games of the night, maybe take more risks. It certainly paid off for Marius and Sanguild in that last game because they lost Sanguild very early on, but obviously went for the reboot and managed to find themselves towards the end game.
I think it's a great point because it really depends on the situation that different teams find themselves in. For Marius and Sanguild, though, this is one of those teams that we know what they have in their locker. We know that Marius is one of the best fighters, if not the best at the moment on EU. Everyone on TikTok, I know, is a big fan of him whenever I seem to talk about him. But I think this is an impressive duo, even rebooting in this game as well, if I remember rightly. So I think this is a duo that will start to perform more as the games go on, as the weekend goes on, as they gain that confidence, because a lot of people would have had this duo to actually win grand finals by the end of it. Not sure I agree with them on that part, but they're very, very much hyped indeed.
They've got the fans on their side, definitely, this duo. I'm already a fan of Marius. I wasn't really that familiar with him before Chapter 5, but I really enjoy watching him play with his duo. So I want you guys to give me a prediction. Who do you think is going to take a Victory Royale tonight out of Trulex and Chicho and Vinco and Pink 11?
Ooh, interesting.
And then tell me why.
Interesting. That's a tough one. I think I'd maybe go with Vico and Pink, just because I think, it's hard. The way Vico and Pink have been playing today has been a bit rocky. It's worked. It's been rocky in the sense of there's been like that element of they're like relying on their great fighting prowess in a lot of these games, right, to have some sort of success. Whereas Trulex and Chicho, you maybe would say are more likely to get to end games consistently. But just the pop-off potential of Vico, like some of the shots I've seen Vico hitting today, it's like you piece that together, like you're gonna just have a game where they do just wipe out the whole of like the mid and low ground and then win. And so I'd probably go with them, but that's a really tough one. It could be either or. Both of them could end up getting wins.
Yeah,
Minute.
Both of them. I mean, I'm thinking about Trulex and Chicho. I'm thinking they're in the position right now. They're going to get to that end game. They're going to find themselves in a good position. Even here, it was an unfortunate final zone. We saw Chicho going down. Of course, Trulex down to 1 HP. Never going to work out well, but they're getting themselves in and amongst that mix. They're getting themselves right there. And I think that consistency will definitely pay off for them in these last 2 games because they're in the mix. They're in the end game situation, and we know what they can do. You know, we talk about Pink and Vico's clutch potential. Of course, they're definitely up there. But Trulex and Chicho, we have to talk about those guys as well in terms of how they can have a big game, because it's definitely possible.
So, Levin, are you thinking that maybe Pink and Vico tend to take one too many risks towards the end of the game?
No, I don't think it's towards the end of the game where it's too much risk. I think earlier on, right, where they're like fighting for Surge a lot of the time, right? Obviously, they're going up on island a lot of the time on basing around the island. Again, they know what they're doing. It's definitely thought out. It's not just like randoms. They're not playing for RNG, but again, you know, you're seeing them in a lot of those earlier phases where they don't look as stacked and they're trying to maybe fight a bit too much, and it seems shaky at times, but I don't think it's a big problem for them.
It's definitely difficult, I think, probably to keep yourself in check when you know that you are some of the biggest guns in the lobby. Mini Miner, are there any duos that we haven't had a chance to mention that you think also have a chance of taking a Victory Royale tonight? I
mentioned them at the beginning of the show, Malibuka and Mustache. Unfortunately, it hasn't been a great day for them, right? Game number 1 and 2 down almost immediately. Game 3, we saw them exiting the bunker right there, getting actually snuck up on by another team. I mean, it's difficult for them, but of any team in the lobby that can pop off in one singular game, it's Malibuka and Mustache. Combining them with that dash medallion as well, we've seen them do it this season. I think they're just a shoe-in to get a win at some point, right? It's surely going to happen. I've made the mistake of thinking that about a team before, though, all the way back 2 years ago with iDrop and his teammates. So yeah, it was not the best for me, but hopefully that curse isn't going to stick.
Mini Miner, don't do down the guarantee just because you're sat next to 11. We're going to head into game number 4. I can't believe we've only got 2 more games of the night left. So Jacob and Takata, let's make it a good one.
Let's make it a good one indeed. And Takata, those who don't learn from their past are doomed to repeat it. And with how well some of these low ground teams have been playing to remain consistent, it's the high ground teams that are winning these games and advancing to the finals.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's different from the qualifiers, but I mean, the format is different as well. We're a set lobby now, 50 duos, but we have lost, well, I say lost, 3 of them are now in the grand finals and no longer dropping on the map. They're no longer playing. I mean, they're already qualified, so there are some open spots on the map. There's changes with drop spots, but let's get into game number 4.
With 3 teams now gone, advanced to the grand finals, Takada, that opens up 3 different drop spots, which we have seen teams move over and take up for an uncontested drop spot for themselves.
Speaking about uncontested drop spots, all 3 games have been won by duos from uncontested drop spots. So if we're talking about odds, we're looking here, Merstash, Malabuka. They're not really in their favor, as the early game can be so difficult to overcome. But let's see what happens throughout this match. Merstash, Malabuka got eliminated right off the bat first 2 games. Third game lasted a little bit longer, made it to the bunker stage of the match, but then got taken out as well. So can they replicate this, or will Zandy, Turtle, or Finn and his duo partner make something happen?
Yeah, this is kind of what we saw before, with everybody kind of not wanting to go for the 50-50. You don't want to throw the game away just like that, no matter how good that you feel that you are. And because of all these teams staying alive in the fashion that they did, very, very similar to what we see here, it was Trippin and Fordoxy that moved over towards Grim Gates, stole away not only the loot, but the mythic gatekeeper and the coin as well. So I think a lot of these teams are now put on notice about the roaming players that are coming in, trying to steal away the loot, trying to eke away the coin at an opportune time. But 2 quick eliminations for Scroll and Scribe on the other side of the map.
Great way to start it off. These early game elims can not only free up a bit of, you know, urge to get those tags, but also make it so your early game's a lot more efficient in terms of just focusing on your loot path, focusing on your rotation. Tace and Benno now, they had a very strong early and mid game in the last match, but when they went for height, they got taken out. So we'll see if they can replicate that early game, but finish stronger here in the late game now.
It's kind of one of those things that you don't really expect. You know, the chain of Hades, especially in a 1v2 situation where you were getting targeted the backside of zone. Who else would be out there, you know, kind of wondering Benno and Tayson. But now we're seeing how it all starts. Darky's going to go down to Lazen. 3 teams over here towards Fencing Fields. And I don't think Venno and Tayson want to be the team to kind of make that first move unless they got a huge first shot. And right now it does look like Tayson is eyeing up an opportunity on the sky jump. Spots him out a few times. Lands a 35 shot. Not much to start get aggressive, but it does turn the tides in their favor.
Trying to remember if they've played very aggressive. I don't think they have in Fencing Fields. I mean, they'll take shots at each other, but they normally don't go for a full-on engagement. So I think those duos will go their own ways now. For Blurfire, though, and Brax, they were quickly getting out of this kind of risky situation when you have Marius around, Sangild around, all the duos in the Grim Gate eyeballing you. You don't want to get too up close and personal, as the third parties can come through, but it is a 2 versus 1, so they might even go straight on in here. I think they were kind of hunting for the player. They didn't even know he was in that cone, but after finding him now, it looks like they are going to be able to pick up a quick elimination here.
Yeah, that's one team at least going down from Grim Gates. At one point or another, there was about 7-8 teams in and around Grim Gate. Almost 20% of the lobby is ready to put it all on the line. Some going directly for it. Others just trying to go for Surge. And if you're Merstash, it's all about survival. Malabuka was already taken down very, very early on. So that puts a lot of pressure on him. And the story of this team so far throughout this major has been uncontested. They average a 2nd place. Contested, they average 28th place. And the thing that makes that stat so scary is they're landing Grim Gates. They're not going to get it uncontested. So they are going to face adversity if they want to continue to land over at this spot.
Playing for all or nothing here at the Grim Gate. As now for Doxy and Trip. Last match, they were able to secure the medallion, but they had the boss boxed up way before the other opponents got close by. So now that they don't have as much real estate here, around Cerebus. They're gonna have to kind of lead him on in, which is exactly what Vidoxy did perfectly here, actually. So hopefully they can pick up this quick elimination now. Get that medallion, that mythic loot.
Same as last game. Using a lot of the action going on around them as a distraction. Obviously, Trippin getting that elimination onto Malabuka is a huge plus. And it wasn't until they tried to fight for the bunker they were taken down by Finn and Kentic. But ZAndy Turtle trying to cover onto the chase. Rebels Roost, where Dexy and Eclipse landed. Another team moving in to contest it. So when you think it's safe, it's no longer going to be so. As ZAndy and Turtle, they don't want to necessarily let this medallion go for free. If they figure out a way to escape, I could see them letting it go. But for free, not on their watch.
Not on their watch. As ZAndy and Turtle now force the box up here. Will a box fight come from it? I'm not sure. It's up to Vidoxy and Trip. And what they want from this situation is a damage. 13 builds to work with. Not a lot of potential to play extra aggressive. Unless they hit some sort of crazy shot here. But I might have spoke too soon, Jacob. Vidoxy says, I don't care. I'm going right into the box. ZAndy gets knocked down. Now the 2 versus 1 for this duo. And even having that medallion in hand, they can chase Turtle very easily here.
Oh, it's a huge opportunity brought to you by the medallion. Quickly dashing over in that direction. As soon as that fight stops, you see them kind of just playing the rest of this game. They got a ton of damage early on, thanks to the first elimination onto Malabuka, thanks to the prolonged fight over towards Grim Gates, and even finishing that one there. So you gotta imagine they got a little bit of an easier road as long as they can find a great position. But this is the stage of the game. Takata Forecast Towers now start to make their appearance, and already you see one being captured.
It's gonna be Noah and Chinyo who are gonna get that Forecast Tower. As a reminder, this is gonna allow them to see the zone, well, next zone, before it has even appeared, so they can kind of prep themselves on how they want to rotate beforehand, giving them that advantage, that upper hand compared to the other players. Turtle, though, now looks like he has been caught. Oh no, it was actually Finn. This is not Trip and Vidoxy continuing the pursuit for Turtle. It's the other duo that lands at Grim Gate. And now it's a 1 versus 1. I'm not sure if this was a 2v1 originally, but it's looking a lot more even now.
Yeah, and there's still 2 more teams to their west. Another one just above them trying to get that reboot. And then another one above them on the outskirts of the mountain. Turtle probably hears the reboot. He wants nothing to do with this. He wants a great chance to try to get ZAndy back in the game. You see him backtracking to where ZAndy actually did go down. So at the very minimum, we know that he has the card. And that reboot that I was talking about is Malabuka and Mustache getting back into the game.
Ooh, I like that, Jacob. I like the sound of that. With 2 matches left, they don't have a lot of opportunities to qualify here at day 1. I'm trying to remember. I think they were 37th on the leaderboard in the last match when they were around the bunker. And they didn't secure too much points after that as they got caught off guard. So if they don't end up winning a match or even getting to the late game, I'm not even sure if they'll finish in the top 25, which is what you need to stay in the upper bracket for tomorrow. So remember, if you don't win a game here, you want to at least get top 25 on the leaderboard. So even just a bit of points could be good for Mustache and Mally.
Yeah, and lower bracket round 2 tomorrow is not something I would wish on anybody in the world. Because at least lower bracket round 1, you don't have the good day. You have another chance with lower bracket round 2. But that's where the lower bracket kind of ends for teams qualifying from one to the next of the lower bracket. You either advance to the upper bracket from lower bracket round 2, or your FNCS comes to an end. And with how long and how hard some of these teams have been fighting all season long, taking that break, practicing, trying to adapt, adjust as much as they can, it's not something where you really want to find yourself and just really leave it all on the line for that one opportunity.
Pressure gets put onto your shoulders, especially here in the semifinals. Are you strong enough to stand tall, though? Chicho, once again, with his little surge base here. No bush bombs, though. But he does have that water bending mythic, so he can take shots from afar without using up any ammunition at all if he chooses to. But the DMR is going to be the more consistent option here, the more viable one to land those tags, as you can see.
Trueleg's base. Even though it's Chicho inside, Trueleg's probably has one somewhere else. I don't really see him too far off. Just on the low ground in the bush. Probably just trying to clean up, loot up. I think 11 and Mini were the ones to kind of break that one down. They have their roles when they're in a position like that, but another early game fight. Marius, they already have 2 eliminations, and now they're going for another 2 more. Gris is in the line of sight. Skavi is already covered distance and try to get away, but that distance doesn't matter. Marius, he's got a beam with that Thunderburst SMG, and getting damage like that is a whole feeling of confidence. You know they're going to move in and try to end this one quick, and Marius and Sangil have an average of 56 seconds this season from start to end in some of these fights, so unfortunately, it's not going to be a 56-second fight this time around. They're able to slip through, but it just shows how dominant a team like this is.
It's nasty how accurate Marius is jumping around with that Thunder Burst. Making use of the weapon. Swizzy Vanyak getting themselves into a box fight here, and this is looking like more of an interesting one. I don't know, I'm getting vibes that this is not just for damage, Jacob. They want some eliminations here. It's Noah. It's Chino. Swizzy seeing if he can get all the way in the box here. He's taking pop shots, corner shots, but nothing yet to put himself in.
You see that Key fighting for that piece control. No one really wanted to give it up easy. Finally peeks through, lands another shot on Noah, but takes an even bigger shot right back from Chino. Game a little bit of cat and mouse, but you can see on the minimap, the third team now rotating in that direction, and Chino just... the awareness over 9,000 right now. Immediately goes to the cone, peeks behind and spots that team out. No sneaky plays for you. And that's going to allow them the information to make a rotation like this to try to disengage.
It's actually really good. Headshot snipe would be perfect, but it's a DMR in the inventory, so even so, it wouldn't be enough to knock them. 270 wood being the only materials left to work with. You can kind of even assume maybe that your opponents will realize that you could be running low here, so they are in a bit of danger if they can't get more mats. Sky and Scroll, on the other hand, looking a lot healthier. Where will the zone pull, though? It looks like it's going to be more towards the east, so it's not even going to move too much, which means they have a lot more time here to continue just kind of taking shots at each other, refarming. Don't have to do anything risky at all.
Especially 80 people still left alive. It's when it comes to Storm Surge, the threshold isn't necessarily going to be massive. It is going to turn on a little late, so it can sneak up on you. Damage being taken by Scry from both angles, one from below, one from above. Misha trying to get into the box, but a third party now making it that much more risky to try to finish a fight like this, but he's not giving up on the play just yet. From one to the next, but so much damage, but he lands a great shot on the Scroll, but he's forced to slow things down. With only HP left, he has to figure out where he's going to get those shields from. Meanwhile, his teammates still putting the pressure on, not wanting to let them heal up for free, especially knowing how much damage they put onto their opponents up until this time.
You see how many chug splashes they had, though? You can tell from afar that they're already back to almost full HP and shields, which is why the aggression kind of lowered here. Misha was forced to pop a banana. Lucia tried to make something happen, but after those chug splashes come through, no longer worth it, especially in the 1 versus 2. It was still successful, though, in terms of damage. Having no eliminations, that's huge, but you got to be careful. Lucia dropped to 76 HP now. No more shield. He's going to back up and heal once again. The back and forth from these duos. Until right now, Scroll and Sky actually might continue the pressure here. They do have the HP and shield advantage. 68 white. Misha now just one shot away from getting knocked. He has to be careful.
Yeah, Sky and Scroll have been doing such a great job of fighting around all these shots, around all the pressure coming in. And from what looked so bleak moments ago, they've turned it all the way around. Misha's down, and now you can see they're just going to try to rotate to the back side of the zone, take the sacrifice here in terms of the storm damage, the HP that they're losing, so that way they could try to find an easier rotation instead of trying to go through 1, 2, even 3 teams. And if you look at their damage, 1,000 above the threshold. They have all the time in the world to make a rotation like this as long as they continue to find the heals.
From pure action to calmness here with Tayson and Veno. They're keeping an eye at the Surge base that I believe Lysen's on. Still at their drop spot. They didn't have to move at all from when the game started. But on Rift Island, a lot of duos. The Rift Island has been increasingly popular throughout the day. More than the qualifiers from what I've seen. Malabuka Murstache, though, Jacob. Is this the match? Is this going to be theirs? They do not have an incredible loadout. or even too much to work with.
Yeah,
are those from the River of Styx, or there's no way they have them?
No, yeah, it is the underworld dashes from the river, and you can see them below on the threshold because Malabuka, remember, he went down very, very early on in this game, but the Chain of Hades through the build, Malabuka able to get some quick damage, gets him above the threshold. Somebody's still suffering the Storm Surge so far, and Malabuka trying to use those dashes to get out. And it's going to be successful. Such a scary position to be in just moments ago. Using the Chain of Hades, getting some damage through the build to barely get above that damage threshold. And it's for Doxy. It's Trippin on the other side. Remember, they're the ones who in consecutive games are able to steal away the loot from Grim Greats while all that action is going down.
Looking for a quick scope for Doxy, though. That's a loadout that you want to have. They are the ones with the medallion and the mythic loot. So now Malabuka Merstash with no dashes left, not too many materials, and not a good loadout. They will be able to make it to the late game, I assume, but they're going to want to refresh if they want to get that VR. Tripping for Doxy, though. They're set up for success so far. They just have to keep playing consistent here as the match goes on.
Oof. Literally moments ago, they were like 70 or so above. Now 34 below. They know other teams are still not nearby positioned here, but if they're going to fight the ones on top of Rift Island, it is going to come down to some sort of a close-range box fight. So I want to see them try to look off in the distance, but even then they're getting targeted out. You see them forced to build, just try to shield themselves.
Robin and Ju. See what they were able to pull off here. They were also below Storm Surge, but it looks like with one knock, they might be able to get their foot in the door once again. There is 73 players up. It's 5th zone, so it has to drop down to 60 if we no longer want Storm Surge. Merstash and Malabuka going to choose the little sneaky route here. They know there is a duo close by. I believe a window open right now. Jump shot going to come through, potentially here. It's actually going to be the Chain of Hades, and it gets put to good use as they get the knock.
We saw a glimpse of it last game, where Veno and Tayson were taken by. Now we're seeing it in full form. Merstash gets shielded, and immediately you see him separate himself from that one singular player to try to make sure that he can heal up for good. For Doxy Trippin, seeing a lot of the noise. They want to take part in it. Dashes his way to safety before reuniting with Trippin. Great decision making between the two. There's a huge strength in numbers, and you don't want to bite off more than you could chew at any moment. It doesn't matter how much fighting you heard going on moments ago. There's only so much time that you can give up before your opponents are fully healed up.
I mean, even if they have a huge upper hand here in the engagement, they could know that Malabuka Merstash are very low. They have so much loot materials. Like, they're so set up to play this late game, it might just not even be worth it to take any risks here. All they have to do is play it out and get the zone. They're pretty far away here as zone has pulled to the other side of the map, so they're going to have to find a way in, whether it be the Rift or the launch pad here by the Rift Island. Even just the River of Styx, as it's in that part of the map, but a lot of players are going to be choosing that Rift.
Yeah, that kind of doubles up because it's a free rotation, or as free as one can be, but it also allows you to save those underworld dashes for later on in the game, because where the zone is pulling, there's going to be no chance or opportunity to replenish any of those. And you see Zandy, Turtle, one of the highest teams up, trying to find their position, but it's Hood who's just under pressure. He forced all the way down low, already lost his duo. Veek's there to try to clean that one up. Unfortunately enough, he was able to kind of escape, but at least he was able to scrounge together whatever loot he found there on the floor, which included some heals and materials.
Gonna make his way deeper into the zone here towards what looks like another solo. But what does he want from it? 19 below. He wants a bit of damage. He doesn't need the elimination. But if he gets the opportunity to, almost fully boxed, you gotta be careful. Veek now just one shot away from getting eliminated, and there it is. Misha, Lucia, once again coming out on top here.
Look at the opportunity, too, that they took. Nobody is close by in the minimap to really disrupt that fight, especially since they're on the side of a mountain. Great awareness and opportunity. Map, even though he has to try to rotate, he was able to get that first shot, knowing that that player had no shields, and it was a must. It was a must elimination, not necessarily for the points, but for the Storm Surge. They were barely able to get above that threshold, and that's what's kind of fueling them to continue moving forward in this game. Two teams still need to go down before placement points are even tasted in this game by any duo still left alive.
Gonna elevate themselves here. They want to get to the zone as quickly as possible, almost beelining it, which is working just fine here with how the zone has played out. They know that there is a duo above them. Gonna choose to get in the bush here and kind of wait it out a little bit. Eyes are on them at the moment, so they have to be a bit careful. Reuse the Flowberry Fizz, gain that mobility once again, heal up as well. And now they can continue to rotate. 63 above, so they're gonna have to plan ahead here. They want to position themselves somewhere where they can have a good field of view on the opponents rotating in, but you got to be careful. With a duo like Pink and Vico, we know how aggressive they can get, especially when they're following you into zone.
Yeah, when you only spend 90 seconds on high ground throughout the qualifiers, every team needs to watch out for Pink and Vico. Even if you feel safe thinking it's a slow side rotation, they'll be waiting around any corner at a moment's notice. The consistency out of them has been insane. They just need to be able to win one of these next two games. Otherwise, probably got their spot in uppers tomorrow on lock, and they'll have to do it again.
We said that all 3 games are won by duos on the high ground, but they're also duos that were known to play the high ground in the qualifiers. So will Veno and Tayson be able to make something happen here? They were below on Surge, which caused them to make extra aggressive plays, but it led to Veno's demise, and now Tayson's left alone. He has Chug Splashes, he has a Flowberry Fizz, but he no longer has a teammate.
It's almost that feeling of deja vu where you're playing so well up into this stage in the game, and that's where everything comes crumbling down. I would say the blessing is Tayson being 65 above the damage threshold. 1 charge left on the Flowberry Fizz, which is almost immediately going to be used for this next rotation. You can see how dangerous it is. So many teams and players jumping over, going through some of these builds. Even Storm Surge forcing its hand in some of the decision-making going around here today.
Vico Pink continuing with their aggression. They know players below them are low, looking for options or opportunities here, even though they already have a decent amount of damage. Going to continue staying ahead, though. They want to be positioned well, as Merstash and Malabuka, from the start of this match, have been in shambles, basically. And that continues here until they're able to find a refresh.
Yeah. Even though they weren't necessarily uncontested this game, I feel like because of that reboot and the timing of it, everybody was kind of out of Grim Gates when it all happened. Tayson falling below, misses the first shot. Only 2 builds left to his name. Run into a whole other team. That's Malabuka. That's Merstash. And he's going to be left by himself yet again. And he goes back to back. Tayson taking down the Major 1 champs.
Huge way to continue his game forwards. But the issue is the 2 players he just eliminated, they were also in shambles. So all he's got now is 15 builds. No shields, no heals, but 59 HP. Gonna drop down for a bit of that ammunition. He missed some brick from the elimination, so he is gonna recuperate that. Now 17 builds instead of 15, not too bad. But Howley, you gotta be careful. Good night, put to sleep as well. Tayson now with 3.
Another elimination, and it's a player who's almost in shambles. Not a lot of loot to be gathered, but for Tayson, something's better than none. Still trying to move forward, changes layers, and this is where you're gonna try to stagger himself. Gathering the information right here is crucial for Tayson on this next rotation. It's really gonna determine whether he lives or gets sent back to the lobby.
1 more player, also shambles, but Tayson's gonna be the one going down this time. Moppy Hero continuing on the edge of the zone, but they gotta be careful. Knocked down in the sky. Only had 1 build to work with, though. Kiro is gonna see if he can continue this duo's momentum forward, but it's gonna be Fastroki and Chicho who are looking incredibly healthy in front. Kiro is gonna have to do some serious damage if he wants this elimination.
He's just hot on the heels, doesn't want to let him escape. Even if reuniting with his duo, Kiro's up for a challenge, trying to break his way through, gets him down to just 50 HP, but the teamwork making the dream work. They're able to get 1, but for Doxy, with a huge snipe, taking down Clone, gets dropped down to 38 HP. High ground putting pressure down, but Trippin is there to save the day. And with that mythic loot from Grim Gates, they immediately dash to the front side of zone and find some safety.
They need to heal up, though. And if you look in the clouds and the stratosphere up in the ozone, Volco Vortexers incredibly high. They do have a banana and a Flowberry Fizz that they can use to not take any fall damage. But do they have a heal off? What is their ultimate game plan here? As Tripp and Ferdoxy now have been put in danger. As Ferdoxy has no shield, forced to pop a medkit. Tripp now has to cover him.
Yeah, I think He has most of the mythic loot as well. Vanyak's gonna get taken down, but Pink gets lost along the way again. Vico by himself. Zone's gonna cut back. He goes back for all that loot. This might be a little bit of a chance here with so many builds. He's waiting for even more as Pink finally gets taken down. Vico now by himself. Top 7 situation. Finds another elimination on his way down. Trying to stack together as much loot as possible and even changes layers. Notice Vico, the low ground king, not trying to force himself all the way down.
Trip, though, right beside him. He does have Fordoxy as well. Now with a bit more time to recuperate that shield that they lost. Volko, I believe, dropped a little bit more, so he can see if he can find a bit of opportunities in applying that pressure to these duos that are down below. Trip, though, taking shots, continuing forwards. Just 4 duos left.
When things were looking bleak, they figure out a way to bring it back. 2 full duos, 2 solos running around. Vortexers are gone. Volko, from everything looking great to nothing going right. He's by himself, but Splash, Font, they're able to steal away that high ground. They're in full control, but they're getting targeted from above. They run out of builds. Splash goes down. Splash goes down. Everything going sideways. And Fordoxy and Trippin at the perfect moment steal away the game and advance to the finals.
What did we just witness, Jacob? Fordoxy and Trip, they were on the low ground holding strong. Issue was there was 2 teams on high ground. One of them goes down, other gets knocked to fall damage. Fordoxy, Trip call the cleanup crew. They finish it and book their ticket to the grand finals.
Professional Fortnite players, content creators, and now lumberjacks because they chopped down height. Caused their demise. That was such an exciting way to finish. And I told Trippin, even when he wasn't doing good, your gameplay is exciting. He was having none of it because he didn't play well. And this is exactly why, whether you're playing well or not, you put up such an exciting game, and it paid off in the end. This is the moment everything comes crashing down. Not 1, but 2 straight eliminations before they seal the deal and take the game.
The low ground curse of the semifinals has been broken. Our first duo to take a victory royale from the low ground, Fordoxy and Trippern. They've done it. They've made it to the grand finals. What a way to finish it off.
Yeah, what a way indeed. The redemption comes through from their major 1, but throw it back on over to Frankie, Levin, and Mini to break down game 4.
It feels like something that was really inevitable from the consistency and the courage that we've seen displayed by Trip and Fordoxy all night. And finally, the game really played into their hands, 11. Although I have to say, when we saw them at Grimgate in the early game, boxing in Cerberus, getting that dash coin, getting such a superb loadout, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've been watching much competitive Fortnite, especially the other region, you would have seen a lot of these Grimgate team wins, right? And it's not quite been like that today in EU. And for a moment, I thought, Mini, maybe our region's dusted, man. I don't know what's going on. Like, none of the Grimgate teams can seem to do anything. But finally, Trippin and Fordoxy, as we sort of called earlier, right? In terms of just, there's always going to be that one game where they have their big pop-off. And finally, it was here with those, sort of win conditions in hand. And interestingly highlighted by the casters as being, again, like from low ground. Even when you look at like how teams typically win with Grimgate, it's often height games just because of how easy it is to play with it. But Fordoxy and Trippin sticking to what their strengths are, just fragging out on mid and low. And I mean, some of the shots, the snipes you're seeing here from Fordoxy in the back end of this game, just unbelievable.
Yeah, and throughout this season, it seems like it has been sort of a solo clutch situation more often than not for both of these guys. Always one of them having to do the heavy lifting in the end game and solo clutch their way to a good placement. It's been a little bit like that today as well. We've had a few solo clutches from both of them, but when they're both together, when they're both in that end game, when they have the power of that dash medallion as well, it just becomes a little bit more easy for them. And it just shows how this is a team that are in form right now. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about them. People aren't necessarily giving them the credit they deserve because, yes, they're going to get that dash medallion more often than not. Yes, they're going to be able to get that early surge, but the way they're playing in endgame is absolutely fantastic as well.
Yeah.
I do want to draw attention to the fact that Splash went splat. Right at the end there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but I do think that it was inevitable that Fordoxy and Trip would have taken the victory royale, regardless of what happened to the boys on the high ground. I'm sure they're going to be back fighting.
I don't know. You
really do think that they would have won that fight?
I mean, Volko and Vortexes is the team. Maybe not Splash and Fan, but Volko and Vortexes looked really good on height. And then Vortexes just went down to 4 damage, like randomly. We didn't see it, so maybe he just got chopped or something, but they looked really good. And Volko ends up coming second. Like, it could have been a way closer game, but I guess we'll just never know now.
This is true. You know what? I was thinking that actually Splashers came second, so that's completely my bad on that one. I mean, Volko and Vortexes, as you mentioned, Levin, a fantastic game yet again from them. I keep using the word inevitable. I do it every single stream, but there are just certain duos that you expect to see in the finals, and you expect to fast track their way there, Minnie.
Yeah, I mean, I said it just before this game as well, that Volko and Vortexes, they have the potential. They can take height. They will do it if they feel like they need to. And in this game, they did. They gave it a go, right? They had a little go at it. Obviously, not quite working out with Vortexes, actually the one also going splat, as Frankie would say. And it just seems like it just didn't quite work out for them. I'm not sure if we're going to get to see how that actually happened, but oftentimes you can overextend. You can almost have a situation where maybe you don't connect enough when you're on high ground as well. Maybe not getting yourself fizzed up enough to avoid that fall damage. But it's the team that I have no doubt will qualify to the grand finals. Are they a team that we expect to win games and absolutely pop off with high eliminations? No, definitely not. So maybe it's more of a Sunday job for these guys, but showing that they're still at the top of their game.
Yeah, and to be fair, Volko still did very well to even scrape a second place in this game, right? Like, his teammate's gone down in like early second moving, and he's just, you know, holding it down on high. I mean, big props to them. Again, though, they will be disappointed because they were in a really good position to potentially win out that game. So, I mean, they'll run it back, but ultimately still a team, like Minnie has just said, that you probably will expect to make it through still this weekend.
Let's take a look at the standings. We've only got one more game tonight, so we'll have a reminder of the duos that have already booked their place in the grand finals. So Trip and Fredoxy, we just saw them do it. Vidil and Reason, Dexy Eclipse, Seti and Cami, they have all qualified already. They're out of the lobby. So we're looking now at the top 29 from the standings in terms of players who have got through to next week, but also players who have confirmed or are about to confirm, hopefully for them, their place in the upper bracket tomorrow. Obviously, they need to hold on for one last game. And I do think that we are seeing some really big expected names in the top 25. Interested to see Blurfryer and Braxfryer as well, though, because that's a duo that I'm not really familiar with. I think they had a great start to the day, but maybe it's tailed off. I don't know if you guys have even seen much from them, really. I think I just noticed them on the high ground in the first game.
Yeah, they were a team that sort of landing in that, you know, newer area of the map, sort of towards the northwest, right around the sort of underworld area. We've seen them in a bunch of the fights, sort of trying to third party and get involved in some of the Grim Gate nonsense that's been going on. So they've been an ever-present force in these games for sure, even when not expected to be, per se.
Yeah.
And Nathan and CZB, I'm so sorry to jump in on you, Minnie, but it's a real surprise and a shock to me to see them at number 37.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, because this is where we sort of change our focus. We change our lens on how we look at this lobby right now, because it's not necessarily about getting a win for some of these teams. It's just about getting into that top 25. Make sure you're in that upper bracket tomorrow. We didn't get to see them on the leaderboard right there, but I'm looking on the side. 41st place, Mustache and Malabuka. They're currently poised to not actually make upper bracket tomorrow. They need to be in that position because it's the team that we would miss in the grand finals, of course, winning Major 1. So it's not over yet. Definitely not over, because of course we still have Sunday as well, even if they do have to qualify through the lower bracket. But for the teams that are lower down, you either have to think, right, are we going to get into that top 25? We're going to try and have a good game, or are we going to be going out for the win, right? If you're in 49, 50 or something like that, maybe it's just time to get the win.
What's going on with Mustache and Malabuka 11? Because I know in the first couple of games, they were having some off-spawn battles. They were not winning. It was actually Finn and Kenty, I think, who were ruining their day. But we've seen them get a little bit further towards those end games as the lobby's gone onwards. But normally it's left to one of them to solo clutch, and they just can't.
Yeah, and a lot of those games, they're playing out of Grim Gate, but without the only benefit of landing Grim Gate with the dash coin and the mythic shotgun. So it's like, again, it's like these really awkward games where, yeah, they might lose off spawn, which we know is something that can happen with those guys. They're not the most amazing team off spawn, but even when they do win, yeah, you're not getting the big win condition, which is the only reason why you've been griefing your whole season to land at a specific spot. So it's like they're sort of just in limbo right now, and I don't see how they get out of it unless they do just start to secure the, you know, the aspect of agility and the mythic shotgun.
I mean, we see them get out of their drop spot in that last game, right? We saw them then up on the island. We're thinking, okay, this is quite a decent game for these guys. They're actually set up for success. They're on the island. They look to be refarming, trying to get some surge. They're like 200 below surge. I'm thinking, what's going on here? They're having to jump in people's boxes on the top of the island up there. They're having to use the chains of Hades to try and attack people in their box. It seems to be a little bit of a last-minute, last-ditch attempt to try and get some storm surge attacks at the moment. And again, I think that is down to their off-spawn situation. They're spending all their time trying to fight the teams that are there, dashing around, trying to avoid fights as well, and not actually enough time getting that early damage. So a little bit of a back to the drawing board situation maybe for this duo when it comes to tomorrow.
Have they got time to go back to the drawing board though, 11? Do you expect to see any kind of change in approach from them? Because I'm guessing they're still going to be dropping Grimgate.
I mean, yes, but that's the problem, Frankie. Of course, we've not been watching the lower bracket games, but I can't imagine landing Grimgate in lower brackets been any more smooth sailing, right? So they get knocked down into lowers tomorrow. Do they even get back out of it, right? If they still choose to keep landing Grimgate, who knows? It really is starting to like a shaky situation. Hopefully they just put on a amazing performance like what they did for us this time round, you know, last major, right? Where they had one of the best games of all time, triple rebooting and all of that nonsense. Hopefully they can do something like that now because they desperately, desperately need it.
I want to make a bold Frankie Wall prediction, and I know my predictions, they don't mean nothing compared to you two, because Mini Miner always predicts Falcon Vortexes to do well, and Levin, you know, the guarantee has come up trumps time and time again. But for me, I think that Vico and Pink can get Victory Royale, but I don't think they're going to do it until day number 3. I think that they maybe need some of the big runners and riders, the most consistent duos, to actually already get their spots before they will get their own, because I think that, you know, fragging out comes naturally to these guys, but yeah, I do feel like they're struggling to actually make the end game stick at the moment.
I'm gonna cut in there.
Yeah,
you mentioned the most consistent teams, Frankie. They've been the most consistent team.
They're consistent.
They have.
They are, but they're not getting a Victory Royale, mate. They might come second, but they're not making first. That's my point.
So, okay, but the thing is here, right, is you said, right, they need the most consistent teams out of the way. They've been the most consistent team.
Them.
Right? You know, you mentioned the fact that this is a team that hasn't been able to consistently make it to end games. They've been consistently making it to end games. If anything,
they are making it to end games, but they're not making it to Victory Royale. That's the point. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. I'm defending my own honor. Frankie will guarantee.
We're not gonna let Frankie cook again, guys. Don't worry. Me and Minnie will make sure that don't happen next time. We'll sort that out for next time. We gotta head back to the drawing board on that one. Yeah.
You shut me out the kitchen.
Yeah. He's not allowed in the kitchen no more. It's just me and Minnie. We'll handle the rest now.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. This woman is barred from the kitchen. Fine. I mean, I did completely talk all over you there and denied you from getting to make even more points than I'm sure you would have made. I guess for me then, what I'm looking for as an answer or an explanation is why they are not getting the number 1 spot. Like, what is holding them back? Because yeah, they can get top 5, they can even get top 2, but the Mini Miner, they're not sealing the deal yet.
Yeah, and I think that is a problem that they have to look into. I mean, they won both of the qualifiers coming into this, right? First place, but that was, of course, a very different landscape to what we're seeing here. In the set lobby, I know we asked a couple of questions about whether they can continue doing what they did in the qualifiers in set lobbies. It has been difficult for them. That consistency paid off in the qualifiers. They were able to find a lot of success. For now, I'm not worried about this year. I don't think this is something that's going to worry me as a potential problem for them. But when I see that they aren't quite able to make it happen in endgame, we might see a few changes to their gameplay.
Yeah, as long as we don't see a change to this duo, because, yeah, obviously obsessed with them. We're going to head into our final game of the night, find out who is going to be booking their spot on just day 1 in now semi-finals. So let's head over to Jacob and to Carl. I also want to hear what they think about Vico and Pink.
Thanks, Frankie. I'll tell you all about Vico and Pink, but first, I want to put the narrative on the table. Jacob, it's the last chance for these duos to qualify to grand finals today. So the winner of this match will be the last duo to make it. But I want to talk about the leaderboard, because top 25 is what you need to get upper bracket tomorrow. It's at 66 points right now, the cutoff. So for a lot of these duos, they got to start thinking, okay, if we're not going to win a match, we got to at least get as much points as possible. You can almost get 66 in one match if you do well enough without getting the VR. So focus should be on at least making the upper bracket tomorrow.
Yeah, well-placed game, sprinkle in a couple eliminations. Even if you have 0 points, you can still figure out a way to make it through. But as you're saying, it comes down to this, because the top 25 teams make it to the upper. Everybody else goes to lower bracket round 2. With 1 game left, let's jump right into it and see who is the last team to make it to finals.
For the last team, I know Frankie would like to see Pink and Vico here. Levin said it himself. I'd say the most consistent duo in terms of not just making it to the late game, but also fragging out in the late game from having so many options on the low ground. The issue is they can get them really high up on the leaderboard, but what they want is that VR. But Skrill scrapped right now with already 1 elim off the bat, putting themselves in a position where they have the upper hand against Zangi here. All they really have to do is close it out with a couple shots, and that's a very strong way to start this last match.
Yeah, just with ease, they're able to take him out. They claim it as themselves. 2 eliminations brings them up to 24 points. They still have a long road ahead of them if they're going to get into that top 25. But the Thunderbolt of Zeus from downtown, classy chords coming in that direction. I don't think they're going to follow up on that damage, but you do see where it came from in the minimap.
That looked crazy too. I mean, the Thunderbolt has some insane effects, especially in that last throw. It was Mafia. No, it was not. We are
no, it might have been
far away. It could have been. I mean, could have dropped it. It was actually. Just got confirmation.
Ooh, Malibuka in the feed. He's taking down Z Andy this time around. But with how contested Grim Gates actually was, I'm not sure that's too much of an opening for them. You see the second team already there, a third and a fourth in the distance. The lucky thing for them is the fact that Trippin and Ferdoxy, even though they don't land exactly at Grim Gates, they land at the outskirts, are no longer going to interrupt this fight. So it is at the minimum 1 less team to worry about.
But there's still a lot to worry about, Jacob.
Yeah.
Not only the 3 duos that are landing at Grim Gate, also the third party. But wait a minute. That third party is no longer here. For Doxy and Trip were the duo that were kind of bullying the last team standing at Grim Gate. So now that they've already qualified, they are no longer going to be third partying here. So Kentic and Finn are up against Malibuka Merstash, and it's more of an even fight here though. But you can see Bevy's close by.
There's so many teams going in this direction. You got Velry, who's already a solo, kind of hunkering down by the reboot van. A couple of teams moving over in this direction. Merstash and Malibuka, they've already taken 1 team out, and they're looking to take out Finn next. But Underworld dashes. A third-party interruption from Pablo and Bevy's is going to allow a couple of seconds here for them to try to disengage and get out alive. And same thing could be said for Malibuka and Merstash, because if you look at their loadout, look at the inventory, not a ton of heals to share between the two.
They got to play this right here. We can see a replay on how they started off with that initial elimination you spotted out on the feed. But being the last match, I know that Malibuka and Merstash, despite having had some rough games to start it off, you know that they want the victory royale. They're currently in 41 place on the leaderboard, which isn't in qualifying range for the upper bracket. They have 30 points and they need 66 just to get to top 25 right now, but it's going to keep increasing after this match ends. So they honestly need to go for the victory royale here. If not, at least make a top 10, top 5, which could push them into qualifying range for the upper bracket tomorrow. But they're on the edge right now, Jacob. This could be bad.
Yeah, I can't speak for every game, but game 3, that threshold increased by about 27 points. From games 3 to game 4, going into this one, it increased again by another 11 or so points. So you gotta guess that threshold's gonna increase anywhere between maybe 10 to 25 points on this next game. So that should be at least something, a goal for a lot of these teams that are below that threshold on that leaderboard. We see Pink, Vico. A little bit of a whole different strategy that we really haven't seen them or anybody else do, just going on top of the Mount Olympus statue, one of the highest elevations on the entire island, which could be useful for Surge.
You just sit up there with double Thunderbolt of Zeus, just throwing beams from the top. Moppy, though, gotta be careful here. Got into a little duel as he got cracked, now forced to pop the minis. Has bigs, has chug splashes. Not as much danger anymore as they're able to recuperate that shield, but you have to be careful. The pressure is on in this last match. Scrapped Skrill are going to be the ones applying that pressure. As Kiro is crouched behind his ramp there. And so far, no big shots connecting. But there's even a potential third party hiding in the outskirts.
Teensy just on the outside with Panzer. Something we've seen them do at least once or twice on the day so far. Third party, as soon as they hear a lot of shots, even a knock in the feed, that's when they begin to try to move in. But another opportunity prevents himself with these players trying to disengage. Teensy lets his presence be known. He knows one of them has at least no shield. That's Srapt, and he's immediately trying to get in. Srapt goes down. Panzer, Teensy's duo, is able to get the knock and the elimination quickly cleaned up, which is kind of what they came for. Now it's all about greed. If they show it or not, do they want more, or do they try to disengage and stay alive?
That's the big question. Being the last match, you'd hope they don't get too greedy here. But it could pay off if they're able to get enough loot from it. I saw Nako close by. I believe he's actually just outside the cutoff right now in 28th place. Just 3 points away. 2 points, actually, from the cutoff. So if they're playing for consistency to get in that upper bracket again, they don't need to get too many points. Like you said, maybe 20 points this match. Just making it to the late game should be more than enough. Shinyo Noah, though, wanting to get that forecast tower, and it looks like it's going to be free. You can see there. Not contested at all. They do have vision of the zones before they appear now.
Yeah, even though they have 92 points, they start this game in about 20th place, so they're inside of that bubble. They have a little bit of a cushion. They can solidify another upper bracket appearance here with a nice place game, or just go straight to the grand finals. We see Vanyak and Swizzy at least cleaning up one of those eliminations. They know the other player just kind of try to disengage, get on out, but there's a whole nother team moving on over to the island just west of Brawler's Battleground. And this is where all that information is going to be given. Vanyak looked like he was momentarily trying to build up, but chooses not to. And you can see where that solo they were looking for. Pixel all the way in the back of the island. No safety of zone if it does start to pull in.
DMR in hand. Just looking for an opening here. Being on the edge of zone, like you said. I mean, the good news is the zone has closed towards them, but edge of the map, I mean, can be difficult to find a lot of players, especially if it's more of the uncongested side, which I believe they're at right now without too many players in the area. So if it continues pulling south here and they don't have enough damage, it could lead to a bit of danger, but they've got an elimination. Chicho's back on his base once again. The routine continues.
I've seen really in play exactly what kind of Levin was breaking down. When you grab the edit for these cones, you're able to see right through them. So it minimizes the chances of you getting tagged if anybody else is built up to a very, very similar elevation. And this has been the Trulex and Chicho game plan almost all day long. This is how they're gathering Surge, building that cushion so they can be a little bit more flexible with their game plan and the next couple of rotations after this.
Nice shot from Chicho, 97. Quick headshot. We'll see, though. Pink and Vico, we know they love their aggression. And it's continuing even in the last match of the day, which is their last shot today to make grand finals. Will Vico and Pink. I've got a good feeling, actually. I've got a good feeling about this duo, Jacob. They definitely have the potential to make it happen. And something's telling me that they might just do it. Taking a look at the leaderboard here. They are technically the #1 team right now, not counting the ones that have already qualified through the Victory Royale. So that's all that's left for this duo.
And if you remember going back to last major, when they actually qualified, it didn't necessarily look the cleanest. It was a huge clutch by Pink in the end game, not letting it go down to the heel off. So it doesn't surprise me too much that they're waiting to the 5th and final game, or even if Frankie predicts going all the way down till Sunday, because throughout the qualifiers, this team did not get a ton of VRs. In fact, they only had one throughout both of the qualifiers. Their strategy doesn't revolve around getting that big win. It revolves about playing consistent, which is kind of what you see in a lot of the grand finals style lobbies, not necessarily the semifinals.
Is that a monkey or is that a llama? On the top of the tree there. Climbed all the way up.
Hey.
Sorry to change the topic there, but you're right.
See it though.
Yeah, that's the question. Will they be able to find it? I mean, to go back to your point though, Jacob, that's an incredible performance for grand finals if they can maintain that consistency, which I know they can. But like you said, with the winner takes all format here day one, even if they don't qualify, it is going to end up with an opportunity to qualify through consistency. And I know that they're more than capable of it. So this could just be a big brain play, Jacob, where they just want more practice. They say, you know what? Let's play all 3 days of semis. We'll qualify last day through consistency. We'll be more warm, more ready for the grand finals. Or they could just end up taking home a game today. You know, that would work too.
Have the rest of the weekend off. Get to watch, get to plan. You know you already got your drop spot claimed. I can kind of see teams playing more games out this weekend, but it's just too big of a risk that I personally wouldn't take. But you definitely wouldn't see me in the semifinals anyway, so that's a moot point. But what I mean by that is, like, yeah, okay, you don't qualify here today. You play tomorrow thinking, I'm going to get more games in. Things don't go your way. You end up in the bottom half, and then you could see yourself in the lower bracket round 3 for all anybody knows, because all it does take is kind of one slip up, one bad day of games, and it kind of costs you everything. So I just would hope nobody really kind of uses that strategy. Even though you would get a ton of practice, it does put a lot on your nerves.
That's true. The pressure will be on your shoulders if that does end up happening. Like you said, day 2 lowers can be the end. Wait a second here. We got a lot of players that like being in trees, apparently, not just the llamas. And Sky knows that he's got a player right below. I'm trying to think, why don't they just jump on his head? And there it is. They were thinking exactly what I had in mind. Unfortunately, though, not a single shot connects off the bat. But after that, waterbending Mythic in the box, up close and personal, used to knock down an opponent, and they're not done yet.
You kind of foreshadowed that one. You called the llama monkey out of nowhere. Sky and Scroll just jump down from the trees above, get the first knock. And you can see they're just playing very, very careful, not biting off more than they could chew. Sky even spots out his opponent through the cone, knowing exactly where he's at, which led Scroll feel comfortable as soon as he drops down, disengages, to go on the chase because they know that he's now a solo. This could be another easy elimination. Sky cuts off the path on one side. 120 with the first shot makes an easy cleanup for the follow-ups. Sky and Scroll just thinking outside of the box above the tree.
What a way.
Wow.
To not use the Chain of Hades. The attempt was there. I saw the vision. The execution, on the other hand, was not exactly on par. But you never know. Pablo Wingu, Bevis, taking a little detour. Pit stop on the train tracks here, as they have popped their last med kit.
So they're going to be able to get a good position in the zone, and if they keep riding this train, you see him hopping off, just getting as many materials as possible. You can see he's down to the bare minimum. The train will kind of swerve upward, and I expect around that corner them to kind of jump off the train, take the north side of the zone. But again, it's a free rotation, which is huge, because then they're able to save the Flowberry Fizz for a later day.
This looks like they're on a mission right now. They've got the players on the edge of zone they can even take pop shots at. Question is, when do they want to get off? Do they want to go all the way up north? I don't know if you're going to make it back on the train now. I got the dashes. Okay. Still, Bevies.
Wait,
hold on, Bevies. You lost your duo partner. The train's too quick. You got to take another pit stop. You might be able to cut off the route here. Can he make it in time? Put your thoughts in the chat right now.
He didn't buy his ticket. They kicked him off. He had to buy his ticket at the next stop. From a team that's just having fun on the train to a team that's earning every single point, because they're not even in the bubble of going to tomorrow's upper bracket. Malibu Mustache finding an opportune elimination on top of Rift Island, which really turns the tide in their favor, because you can see Dre kind of stuck on the side of Rift Island by himself now.
Trying to take a look at the surrounding area around Rift Island. Looks pretty standard so far. Marius, though, Sangild put into a nifty situation here. Sangild's completely cracked. No shields as well to recuperate what they've lost. All they got are weapons. Not even a flowberry to make it into zone easier.
Okay, this
so
is
they
scary.
will have to do.
This
have
is
a
scary.
safer rotate. Yeah.
Not only is it scary that the fact that they have nothing. They have nothing. Barely have weapons. But it's more so that he does have that Underworld Harbinger SMG, which leads me to believe that he does have the Siphon Medallion. And throughout the qualifiers, Marius exactly put up some huge plays, got some huge position and huge placements because of that Underworld Medallion. And even though they don't have any heals, you see no shields, no HP to regain, that could be a huge turning point for Marius if he could start to pick up refresh after refresh.
There are so many duos in the surrounding area. Train has even pulled up to Reckless Railways now. You can see the amount of... I'm trying to see on the minimap if I see them. Might have pulled up with a surprise. But with so many players close by and not even that many materials, Raban now above as well. Marius either has to completely disengage here, which is like he's doing, or they kind of have to find some action. They do have more time to reform here, so they can recuperate their materials. All they really need is enough to be able to have a box fight or any sort of engagement.
Yeah, we saw where this loot came from early on in the game. That was where they jumped down from the tree, got the elimination. 30 below though for Marius and Sandguild. From 4 above, continuously dropping. 93. It's going to take more than just one shot this time around. And it's continuously getting worse. 117. There's really nobody in sight. It's only going to be the teams that are going to try to gatekeep him from zone, but it's Trulex. Trulex is actually down. I don't see Chicho anywhere. So a big question is if they're still in the game at all.
Only time will tell. As Sandguild's going to get boxed up. But he says, no, my journey's not over yet. 164 pump. Taking out Bevies. Now with just 15 HP left. Pops the med kit. Pablo is left alone.
Wow, is all I really got to say. That is how you stay alive. From one fallen scrap to loot to causing another one. Now they're able to gain a little bit of elevation, but Marius ends up on the wrong side. Targeted, he's going to be Sandguild. Can't really lend a helping hand just yet. He's just trying to get his teammate out, but Marius goes down. Water bending ability, just bleeding shots through the build. Sandguild down to just 13 HP. A focus now coming in from multiple teams and players in the lobby that has slowed down, and that's just enough seconds for him to get the med kit off.
Drew Robin gonna take out Vortex. Now Pablo still up above, are still up and running. He is below though, picking up that medallion. Getting the spare loot from that elimination, trying to drop down those opponents. 238 above the Storm Surge threshold. Looking healthy in terms of materials, loot. But it's difficult to clutch it out as a solo, especially if you're looking for that VR.
See him just trying to run up. He's already in zone, but he knows he is a solo. He was the one who got that first knock on the Marius. Now he seals the deal, taking down the full duo, sending them back to the lobby in the last and final game. And they started this one in 12th place, so they are inside of the bubble. You got to imagine Marius and Sandguild are able to hold on to their spot on that leaderboard.
Yeah, most likely will make it to the upper bracket and compete again tomorrow. But we still have that one slot in the grand finals for today. So I'm curious who's going to be taking it. Chicho, DMR in hand. Not a lot of HP to work with. He's got full shield though. But with only 32 above, now 21 below, the pressure's on.
He has a great position. He's already in zone, but he's not going to be able to survive. Well, I might have spoke too soon. Storm Surge almost instantly turns off, but he gets shielded down to just 9. He can get some of it back, but not much thanks to the minis. Still 14 HP. Chicho just going through the ringer right now with another team knocking on the door. Chicho just trying to get out, down to just wood. That's going to show a sign of weakness for anybody that wants to try to get aggressive.
Flowberry Fizz getting popped now, going to recuperate all of his shield here. But like you said, they know that he's in wood. They know he's low on materials. So in theory, they could just keep taking shots, especially if they had some sort of water bending mythic or anything that doesn't require ammunition. But it looks like he's got a bit of time to breathe now. But for how long?
Yeah, only time will tell, luckily for him. already in zone, safe as can be. As we see Robin and Ju just getting aggressed on by Dre. He gets knocked instantly. Darky's at the door, still trying to knock. Well, they're going to let him in all right. They're going to let him in and just take him right back on out. 2 straight eliminations with ease, and nobody really even noticed it. You saw no shots coming in from the distance, no lobby focus at all. So that is going to be all their loot and time to think about the next rotation.
Moppy looking comfortable here. Not in zone, but hitting some nice shots to just continue with their rotation here. Banana made the good use. Scroll close by. And there's Murstache and Malibuka. They need a strong finish here. They have not had a great day, starting off with almost 3 games getting E-limbed off spawn. They almost made it to late game in one of them, but they were unable to close it out. Now this is the furthest we've seen them up. So they really have to make it all happen here.
383 above. They were able to actually get a hold of the Grim Gate loot.
Ooh.
The medallion, and you see Murstache in possession of the Mythic Gatekeeper. 372 above the damage threshold. A little bit of a pull when it comes to the next zone, but with that medallion, the Flowberry Fizz, I feel like they're going to stagger themselves, wait a little bit, and then dash towards the front side of zone, and once again try to solidify that high ground underneath their own control.
They're looking strong here, Jacob. They're looking like they have the potential to take home this match. Grimgate loot, good shield, good mats, even positioning. With the dashes, it makes it 10 times easier to make it into zone and continue to rotate while conserving those materials. So their dashes are coming through. You can see them flying. There's a big change in elevation for this zone, though, which could cause some trouble for players on the lower end of it. But so far, the zone has closed in between both. So this first rotation should not be too much trouble for a majority of the duos.
Yeah, especially since it's coming off of the high ground. Pink Vico, they're going to make their way there. Create some distance between them and the lowest point on the map. 209 above the damage threshold. Really not too much to worry about. They're looking towards the backside of zone, trying to take advantage of anything as Pablo finds a huge amount of shield, but sacrifices some HP. Not very much when it comes to those builds, though.
Nice job of getting into the edge of zone here. 2 boxes built out. A little bit more safety, but with the big pot gonna have to be used, and a player having just gotten eliminated right outside his box. The eyes are on Pablo right now. Their opponents don't know how low he is, but it does not matter as they get right in, get that elimination. Vico has lost Pink as well. Now left as a solo. 17 duos are up.
Well, now it's time for Vico to return the favor of last major. It was Pink who clutched up, qualified them in day 1. But he's just literally down to the bare minimum. 9 builds, 1 mini. Forced to recycle as much as possible. And he has a far pool up elevation. It's going to be a nightmare of a rotation for him. But on the other side, Dreamin' high in the clouds. Velry, Various, bro. 9th zone as well. It's usually up until this point. If you're able to hold on to it, you're in good position of this game. And you see how much space they built for themselves, extended outward. And they have that Flowberry Fizz just in case anybody starts to target them from below.
Which is exactly what's going on right now. Volko Vortexers trying to do what they can to drop it. If zone pulls back, they're going to conserve so many materials up above, but they get dropped now. Their tower crumbles down. Good news is they did have that Flowberry activated. They will not take any fall damage, but Sky and Scroll now are going to be building up.
Yeah, they planned that one perfectly. We've seen it a few times already here on the day. But somebody else has challenged him at the last moment. That's Hydro, and he goes down immediately. And that's a big refresh. You see the banana there as well, but Hootie, he's still trying to fight for revenge. Finally drops down, gives it up. Swizzy and Vanyak look towards the backside, tries to box up one. He's going to narrowly escape as well. A lot of opportunity slipping through the hands of some of these players that are looking for late game eliminations.
One duo now, climbing back up on height. Vanyak, Swizzy, though. They're popping that Flowberry. Is it to go down or is it to go up is the question. It's Vortex's Volko that have taken the clouds as now. They apply pressure from above, dropping down because they were too high up, though.
You see them just immediately building up. They want to maintain their position on the high ground. Fast Roki, 9 HP. He gets flanked, taken out. Robon's gonna be stuck by himself. I've seen that Harbinger SMG change hands at least 3-4 times already in this endgame. With no builds left, Robon's just trying to go through unnoticed, but Swizzy's ready to take all challengers, takes down Kiro, moving him and Vanyuk up that leaderboard.
3 elims onto Swizzy. Regroups now with his duo partner. Mid layer here, they have to be careful. There's thin ice down below. They cannot slip as they continue to Tarbon forwards. As Merstash Malabuka, they're looking up top. They're looking at height. They're going for it. They have the dashes from the medallion. They have everything they need to come out on top. Volko now gets cracked. They have the advantage. Banana getting dropped down to heal up. Can they maintain it, though? Just 4 builds to work with.
Better late than never, I always say. They're waiting to the last possible moment. Swizzy going wild. Panzer goes down. Vanyuk trying to play hero, but he gets eliminated. Merstash dropping down to play Disruptor, letting Malabuka play for the heal-off scenario, but it's no. They both given it up. They're both on the low ground, and they're both down to just HP.
Flowberry needs to be popped here. They have to recuperate their shield. It's Howley who dropped down from above. Now all the action is on the mid ground from low to up top. The players are just in an ultimate battle as Merstash now has recuperated a good amount of shield, good amount of HP, but they don't have mats, Jacob. They need to find an impact.
All those materials were used to try to maintain their position on the high ground, and now they have no position on height. No builds on low. Merstash still trying to dash around, trying to cause some confusion. Malabuka goes down. Merstash trying to bounce around. Him versus Eltinzi, and he gets the elimination, trying to stay alive. But with losing his teammate, high ground's a solo as well. But he has 6 med kits, more than enough for the win condition. So if Merstash wants to end up with a victory here, he has to go off.
It's turned into a solo FNCS. Merstash on low, Sky on mid, and Volko all the way up in the clouds. Sky has already started his heal off. Who has the most med kits? It's 6 med kits for Volko, and he starts using them.
Yeah. His heal off is going to start a little early. He has more than enough time to make it so. Sky starting it as well and takes down Merstash. It was his only hope, but he cancels the medkit, leaving Sky to go on a scramble where he cannot find Volko, and he wins the heal off with ease. Welcome to the EU FNCS Grand Finals, Volko and Vortexers.
There is only so much you can do when your opponent on high ground has 6 med kits and their upper hand in terms of positioning. But that was a great way to guarantee that victory royale. 5th match of the day, the last shot for day 1 to qualify to the grand finals, and Volko and Vortexers take that spot.
Throughout the qualifiers, they have shown the blueprint. They have shown glimmers of being one of the teams to be on the region. And now with a big win here in game 5, they get to rest. They get to rest up the rest of the weekend, watch the rest of the games play out, and prepare for next week, which is going to be the grand finals. But the big question here right now, Takada, Malabuka Merstash, 3rd place in that game. Did they get enough points to go to the uppers?
I think it's going to be enough. They were outside of the cutoff going into this match in 46th-ish. They were almost on the bottom of that leaderboard, but that's it for me and Jacob today. We need to know what just happened on that leaderboard. Frankie, what you got for us?
Thank you so much, guys. We will hear your fabulous voices again tomorrow. I think what we've got is a lobby of players breathing a huge sigh of relief because High Ground Menaces, Volko and Vortexers have now booked their ticket to the grand final, so they will not be playing tomorrow or on Sunday. They're through, and Mini Miner, you were predicting this from the start. You were predicting this for years, in fact, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's, I'll take all the credit for this. Sure, yeah. It's all my work, you know. Since birth, I've always vouched for these guys. No, I think this is a team that I wasn't actually expecting to do what they just did. I mentioned it just before this game that I was expecting them to qualify through on Sunday, and they were a team that weren't necessarily going to go out and win a game. We saw them on height in the last game. We saw them have an unfortunate circumstance of Vortexers going down to 4 damage, and they didn't let that affect them. They didn't think, right, okay, we'll start to play our usual way now. It actually worked out very, very well. Again, the Vortexers, of course, going down up on height, but Volko, the credit has to go to him. What an incredible clutch from him. Just to have the nous, the knowledge, just the ability to know, okay, I've got these med kits. This is my win condition. I don't need to drop down and fight. Let's just ride out the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't believe, you know, there's been a show here today where I was probably backing them a bit more than Mini. Something's maybe a bit off here. We gotta check what you've been drinking today, because I'm not too sure whether, you know, something's contaminated your water or whatnot. But look, I think the main thing here is that they were a team that had the ingredients, right? When you have a team that, you know, can get early surge because they're winning their spawn fights, they have potential to play for forecast. They have a, you know, understanding and knowledge and experience this season of playing high ground. All those things coming together, you can expect that team to be in running for winning a game. And it took them till the 5th game to do it. Boy, did it cause some heartbreak for some other teams, all right? Because a bunch of other teams towards the end there where I was looking, thinking, you guys really need to win now, otherwise things could get dicey.
Levin, were you a Mustache and Malibuka believer?
I was, you know, I saw them go up for it and I thought, it must be now. It has to be now, you know, they're gonna go down to lower bracket otherwise. But it's really unfortunate that this was one of the few games that went to heal off, right? And they just didn't have any of that. They were in this game to frag out and eliminate everybody out of the lobby, not to sit there and heal off. And unfortunately, that was not the lobby they were in.
Yeah, it seemed like their high ground was just looked at by, I think, 2 or 3 different teams, of course, chopped out. They tried their very best. Of course, the 3rd place is decent. Of course, not automatically qualifying through to the grand finals. The big question for me now for this duo, are they still in upper bracket? Have they made it inside of that top 25? I'm not 100% sure at the moment. They were 41st going into this game. They needed a solid game. Is 3rd going to be enough? That's 6 eliminations as well for them in that game. I actually don't know if it's going to be enough. They might be in lower brackets somewhere.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And also it's going to be just really interesting to see what happens to the map in general, because now we have got some devastatingly good duos out of the running. And actually, there hasn't been any surprises really in terms of duos that have taken victory royales. You might say Vulcan Vortex is, I wasn't expecting them to necessarily get victory royale, but I was expecting them to qualify. But they are big hitters. I guess the biggest outlier is maybe Dexy and Eclipse. But if you looked at the Twitter account earlier, you know, Dexy was saying we are going to take a victory royale in game 3, and they did. So no surprises, Levin.
Yeah, no like crazy surprises. I think outside of, you'd probably say Dexy, all of these guys have shown a propensity to win games. Like, they're all players who you could attribute game winners to when you look at the way they play the game. So no big surprises there. But even again, as you said, the only one that would be a surprise, he called it way before anybody else, right? So ultimately, I mean, big ups to Dexy. I think I'm really excited to see what sort of happens to these guys now. Of course, there's, you know, the problem of being contested at Rebels Roost isn't the best place, and they won their game in the one game, I think, where Kovacs and Stan didn't actually contest them at Rebels Roost. So we'll see whether or not these guys can continue to cook from that spot. But all in all, Frankie, I'd say somewhat predictable today.
Yeah, I think the thing that took me by surprise is the fact, of course, we had 4 games out of 5 that were high ground wins. You know, we always expect that to be a large majority of high ground wins. But I think the lack of impact of the Dash Medallion, the lack of clear-cut chances it gave the teams that had the Dash Medallion to go up for height. It seemed like the teams that were playing height today really held it down very well. They seemed to sort of suppress any fire and any potential threats that were down below with the Dash Medallion. So I think that's been the most surprising thing to me. It's not something we've necessarily seen a lot on EU, where it's like the Dash Medallion coin team doing such a great job and dominating everyone. But I think that for me was a little bit of a shock.
I wonder where you have seen that.
There's a region, I believe it starts with N and ends in A, that I think where we're seeing a little bit of Dash Medallion activity, just a tad.
Well, we'll be able to see what Mini Mana is talking about in a couple of hours' time, actually, because that show is coming up. So do stick around if you want to see the Peterbot show. We've got to talk more about the show we've got here, though, because we've mentioned the format already, but we'll explain it to you again. When we show you the leaderboard in a few moments, you're looking at the top 30, the top 5 names. It's not that you should discount them, but remember that they're not going to be playing over the next 2 days because they got victory royales and they've already qualified for the finals. The 25 names below that, they have guaranteed themselves a spot in tomorrow's upper bracket, which means it's just 1 lobby and they've got an extra lifeline and the chance to get a victory royale and a golden ticket to the grand finals. They'll be playing the top 25 players from the 4 lobbies that have been running consecutively in the lower bracket. It is brutal there. I'm hoping we can find out if Thomas and Malibu have made it out, but we might not have quite finished with the competition in the lower bracket, so we might have to wait a little bit longer. And obviously in the pre-show tomorrow, we'll be talking about the duos that did make it out of Dodge and make it into the upper bracket. But that's one of the reasons that this format is so exciting, boys. I mean, Mini Miner, do you think that Thomas and I said Thomas and Malabuka. I was going back to
gonna
2023. Thomas and Queasy. I'm so sorry. Listen, okay, I love that duo so much. I love their new duos now. I respect it, but I haven't quite got over it yet, and that's something that I need to keep to myself. But anyway, Thomas and Queasy, do you think that they would have made it out of the lower bracket, Mini?
I mean, it's hard to say, right? They're two players that have ample experience. FNCS winning pedigree, and Queasy not quite yet for Thomas HD, but a wealth of experience from his part as well. A bit of a shock, I suppose, to see them in the lower bracket. They haven't necessarily been on the grind as we've seen from both individuals in the past this season, but I think they're a team that should be in the grand finals, right? So I'm not too concerned about them being in the lower bracket. I think if they are still in the lower bracket come tomorrow, that's where my concerns are going to lie, because they might not even make it all the way to grands.
The birdies in my ear are telling me that maybe, just maybe, they didn't quite make it through. So we'll see if the birdies were chirping correctly. But if they aren't actually playing tomorrow in the upper bracket, and we look at the leaderboard in a second, Malabuka and Sasha also in lower bracket, that would mean the first and second place team from last season, both of them are in lower bracket on day 2. Like, that to me, again, is just crazy, right? Like, that's just not what you would have expected. So season's all over the place right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, Thomas came so close in Major 1 to winning his first FNCS Major, and I'm just on that hype train. But anyway, let's take a look at tonight's leaderboard. And as I said before, cast your eyes on that top 30 to see who is going to be playing in the upper bracket tomorrow. So as you can see, you're looking at Sky and scroll downwards. Fantastic night for them. Obviously a fantastic night for Vico and Pink as well. Constantly making it into the final zone, but not quite getting a victory royale. But I think that could change by Sunday. And obviously we've got to talk about Venno and Taysom and Imana.
Yeah, Venno and Tayson, of course, a team that I know we spoke highly of at the beginning of the day. I think it's been tough for them today. I think they haven't quite been able to find their stride from what we've been able to see from them. They haven't quite been able to show us what they really can do. I know that Tayson's one of those players that will turn it on when it matters most, and I think, you know, there's almost a guarantee that they'll be in the grand finals. I'm not too concerned about them. They have another stab at it tomorrow as well, so we'll see what they can do.
Also, I think honourable mention goes to Sangold and Marius Cow as well. Might not have got a victory royale 11, but they're really not. They're not shy of getting in people's faces. However, I just heard an ooh.
An ooh from Mini Minor, because that's the 23rd place for Mustache and Malabuka.
Wow.
Just about sneaking their way on a tiebreaker, realistically, look, because of course they're on 106 points as well. That final placement point, I guess, is what did it for Mustache. So that's up 18 places for that duo. Just falling out, though, is Robin and Ju, of course, just in that 26th spot. So they had a decent game in that last one as well, but couldn't quite make it happen. Really happy to see Mustache and Malabuka in that upper bracket.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's good. It's good. I mean, if they hadn't have made it through, again, you're just looking at the reigning champions, and all of a sudden you're thinking the season's gonna ride. They'll be able to run it back again tomorrow at Grimgate, and hopefully they'll have better fortunes. The birdies in my ear also did tell me that there is a chance that Queasy and Thomas still qualify, because I think they're in that last game. Like, they're still in that last game alive. So fingers crossed, if you're a Queasy and Thomas fan, they do it. Again, things just gonna look so different tomorrow, Frankie, right? We're talking about Venno and Tayson. They've stayed up here, right? You know, I was looking to see what happened with Podesai and Snazy in the lower bracket, right? Because that's a team that's been contesting them off spawn. I think those guys actually didn't make it through. So now Venno and Tayson, feet up again, they get a chance to run it back and win their game. But again, these are the things you have to start thinking about. What lower bracket teams come into this lobby tomorrow and completely shake up the game? I think there's a couple, but, you know, we can touch on that more tomorrow.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good tease for tomorrow. But also, Levin, those birds, they've been playing you. They're playing you for drama, mate. Mini Minor, your thoughts on today's action before we let everyone go to bed, except for basically everyone watching the show who's obviously going to stick around for North America.
Yeah, really great day overall. I love the victory format. I think a lot of people would agree with me. Just seeing teams that are getting through on the victory, seeing the clips on socials as well is always great. I think it's going to be interesting to see how teams develop tomorrow, right? We saw a few new strategies coming out. The Chains of Hades were apparently ridiculous now as well, so we're seeing some players starting to adopt that strategy. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what our teams can do, because tomorrow, even on lower bracket as well, it's crunch time for a lot of our teams, whether we watch them or not. A lot of players are going to be very nervous tomorrow, so I'm excited to see whether that can thrive or make them thrive in tomorrow's upper bracket.
Oh, I really want to see some Hades highlights now you mention it, Mini Minor. Boys, thank you so much for bearing with me today and for also obviously educating our audience and talking us through what we've seen so far. We've got 2 more days of the semi-finals. It is a brutal format for our lower bracket duos, but you know, there's so much to fight for here. A spot in the global championships is on the line, as well, of course, the series 2, the season 2 major acts of championships. Everyone wants to get their hands on it, but only one duo can. We will see you same time tomorrow. Do not miss it. But right now, sound that horn, please.